So mute or no mute?
Yeah, it's alright. It's too late now. It's live. Welcome to the Clutch Kick. So I'm your host EG, and actually below me today because
No, you're. I don't think you've adjusted your screen, mate. You're only a tiny little box up in the corner.
because I have to. Because when we do the other stuff, I'm gonna be the blob in the middle. So
yeah, but you could always do it and then move yourself up there.
Okay, hang on. All right.
We want to. The fans want to see your handsome face, mate. Like
no, they don't.
It's like, no. He's just our token cute Japanese guy.
Is that better?
Just splendid, mate.
Okay, cool. All right. So.
This is episode 600,481.
I don't know.
Of the
I
Clutch
should have
Kick.
kept track, but I didn't.
Or we should just say episode 2 with Michael.
Episode 2. The first episode of Michael this year.
Yeah.
The first one of 2019 with Michael.
How long's the show been going?
A year and 9 months?
Longer than that.
Nah, only about a year and 9 months or something.
So it's my first show early.
Yeah, you're really early in the piece.
So is that what sort of set you guys off on the trajectory of fame and greatness?
Of fame viewers, yep.
I think you were one of the first live interviews that we did.
Okay, cool.
I can't remember because the other ones are pre-recorded, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel very privileged that I'm back, and thank you for having me. And yeah, it's a bit of a moment to be back here again.
Probably should have introduced Michael from DriftBit or Battleist with the DriftBit.
He was the guy with all the empty promises last year, right?
Yeah, the hollow dreams and hollow promises that never came to fruition. Oh well, but we're here again, so I guess that's a positive sign.
Yeah, it's clearly headed in the right direction, or you're coming here to shatter everybody's dreams some more.
It's just provoking the proverbial bear. So,
so I guess before we harass the shit out of Michael about version 2 DriftBit when we never saw V1, we'll do some news. Today, Pheasant Wood Circuit announced that they're going to run sort of open drift sessions during their in-house track days, similar to what Wakefield used to do, where you could rock up to a off-the-street speed day and sort of 15-minute sessions of drift around circuit racing, and a lot of people saying positive things, a few people getting caught up in sort of, oh my God, it's expensive. If you crash into a wall, you've got to pay $4,000, all this sort of stuff. I'm pretty sure if you crack a concrete wall, you could probably deserve to pay the $4,000, and at that stage you're not going to be driving for a while anyway because you're probably fucked up. So, but
there's already been lots of crashes anyway, and they haven't caused any significant damage. Like but there's also, but there's only if there depends on the layouts they ran. But when you did we can speak about the lessons a little bit. But the layouts we ran on the track day, there was only one wall to hit, and that was the one over the top of the hill. The rest were like way off track. Yep.
There was a conveyor belt wall to hit, but they haven't threatened conveyor belt wall, money. So if you're hitting concrete walls at speed and cracking them, you've done a pretty good fucking job. And they'll probably be going to your funeral to collect the money anyway. Literally. But there's like a licensing thing going on with it. We got word in from Revo today. If you've attended Revo days regularly, then you will get a license for.
I think they can do the licensing.
Yeah, they'll pass you for the license, and I think Nick also said, license will be issued free of charge, but Revo is going to come out with a public statement based around that in the next day or two. But yeah, just sort of clearing that up, and I think it's purely just for the track to know that their shit's not going to get fucked up, and they don't have to sort of monitor the track all day during those sessions. They can just sort of sit up there with security cameras and keep an eye on it, and it will sort of self-manage. Would be my understanding. You also did the Rev lessons on Friday. How did that all go down?
It went well. There's a couple of sneaky people that sort of got in when they weren't really beginners, but
who are they? Call them out. Call out names.
I don't even know who they were, but they
okay.
They sort of pretended for a little while, and then it's like you kind of know what you're doing.
But then I also heard there was some really, really green people who didn't even know how to dump a clutch and do all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that was good. Like a lot of people that there was one first timer that I saw there. He pretty much just bought a car and had it for a few days. Got some standard wheels and put them on the car, and then came down. There's a couple that sort of have done some wet skid pan days. It's the first sort of dry because they didn't wet the track down. It's a dry sort of event, but they didn't have LSDs that were quite tight enough, or some sort of funny setups that they had. And so it was good. I think they should do more of it. It's hard to sort of pick some people's levels as well, so you kind of have to get them down and assess them, and then sort of give them some training to suit. So
well, I guess it's hard because we've got the school at the drag strip, and that's really good to get started, but there's nothing to sort of, there's no go slow program in your own car. You pretty much show up to a wet pan day and pray that you have a rough idea on what you're going to do.
Well, this is more managed, so they send you out individually. There's there'll be no one behind you. And it's way more managed. So I hope people feel more comfortable about it, because
means drivers should get better a whole lot faster too.
Yeah, and then the guidance as well. So jumped in some people's cars and just sort of had a chat with them and ran them through a few things that they can practice. What else did we do? Yeah, we actually ran more of the track as well on that day. So
I saw some pictures coming up from the two corners that we didn't.
Yeah.
Didn't skid.
I'm not sure what the decision was with that, but they ran the 2 extra corners, but you still had to slow down. There was a chicane before our normal starting area.
Yeah, those corners look fun, so hopefully that's something to come for the next event then.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. It's probably more to do with noise, but maybe with the amount of people, because they were sending them out one by one. So if it's a group, then maybe it's too noisy.
Yeah. No, I guess we'll wait and see and go from there. And then over the weekend, Vic Drift final round was on.
Yep.
Dale Campaign ended up getting knocked out in the top 8, but had enough to secure the season victory. So that puts him sort of right up there with probably he is one of the country's best and one of the most consistent, because he's continued to prove that he can really pull it together and do well every single round. I'm trying to find a finishing order because I did not watch.
Nice. I really like Dale's driving lately. I don't know, he's just cool to watch, and every time he goes out, it's exciting to see him drive. I think he's probably one of the best going around at the moment. His setup's good, his team's good.
He's been in that car for a long time, and he started being more aggressive. Originally, or even right up until this year, he's just clean, boring, but super clean, and that's why he's done so well. But he's sort of started adding some flair to it now, which is even better. He's sort of done things that probably almost in the right order, because then you end up with his teammate Matt Harvey, who's sort of on the opposite side, where Matt has that little bit of extra flair, but it doesn't always come off, where Dale sort of sits that little bit back, but it tends to always work. So hopefully with this control freak team thing, that for next year they continue to bounce off each other, and Matt gives a little bit more flair to Dale, and Dale gives a little bit more of the calmness to Matt. So
does Dale watch the show?
Occasionally, and I'm sure Matt will tell him.
Yeah, because I kind of half dogged him at DCA. I was meant to run a unit in his car, and he wasn't there the first day, and I put a unit in Matt's car, and I was meant to swap it out, but it was raining, and we got busy, and so if you're watching Dale,
what you're saying is
sorry for dogging the boys.
So pretty much, fuck you, Dale. Adam LZ is more important.
It was more of a
It
was more of a time issue and an effort
definitely.
thing. And,
definitely. Yeah. Like with 3 full days of track time, there just definitely wasn't enough time.
It was raining, and I won't say me, but the other guy in my team one of the guys in my team was hungover on the day that Dale was there, and someone in my team was hungover the other day as well.
It's DCA. Was anybody not hungover?
Yeah, so just everything combined. Anyway, if Dale's watching, sorry for dogging the boys, Dale. Next time.
And then D1 finale over the weekend.
Yep.
Yukoi season champion, from my understanding. I didn't watch any of that.
He didn't even qualify, so
he
got knocked
first
out.
day, second day, both days.
No. So it's top 16 only. Qualifying's on the Saturday.
Oh, so they didn't run it the same as other rounds. So they just did one day.
Yeah, it's one day because they ran D1 lights after qualifying.
Okay.
And then D1 GP ran their battles the next day.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. Still not a huge fan of that course. Like I like their older courses.
That's a super old school course, that one at Battleist, though.
It's interesting history of that course. Because
they've run lots of different sections of that track too. Because that track is like an 80s or 90s, like when motorsport was massive in Japan, circuit similar to Fuji. Like that's played that on the simulator a lot, and that's like, if you're in a big horsepower car on the simulator, you can link the shit out of that track, but it's like a big track.
Yeah,
I think it was even on Need for Speed and stuff, like Pro Street back in the day or something. Yeah, like it's a big track.
Yeah, some super rich dude in the 80s built it. I think as a competitor to Fuji, and I think with some goals of getting F1 there, but then it was in the middle of nowhere. It actually is in the middle of nowhere. There's like no towns around. The closest town is very small, then the closest city is a few hours away, and so then no one could turn up because there's just nothing around. And eventually,
nowhere to stay, nothing to do.
Yeah, well, the guy went broke. His company folded when recession hit. Recession. And then apparently it's been sold for next to nothing to another company, and they're just sort of maintaining it.
That should be like Ebisu the second.
I think there's only like the big track and there's like a small thing, but I don't think they maintain it very well.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, huge track, but then Daigo looked like he drilled the shit out of somebody during the competition, and
because he lost the first part of the battle, so he knew he had to go real deep on the second part.
So he went deep through the other car.
Yeah, it was a big hit, but far out he was quick. Like his entries were one of the most impressive. Yuio's entries were impressive as well, but I don't really like it. It's technically good, but I just didn't like it. Maybe it's just his car. It looks crazy. Alexi was saying in the stream that he actually did compare the silhouette of the two cars, like a normal S15, normal-ish S15. He's one. And he says it's not that dissimilar. It's just I think all his styling is making it stand out and making it look quite different.
That's that super jacked up one, right?
Yeah, it's high. It's got like this time attack
2-inch body
style.
lift or something.
Yeah, like it's huge amount of lift. I don't know how much lift it is, but it looks really high off the ground. And then it's got all the aero from like time attack a few years ago, where it's like lots and lots of different bits and pieces all over the car. I think it's all carbon fiber now as well.
Yeah.
This wasn't the Super, was it?
No, it's 15.
Yeah. Daigo Super is cool. Like that thing looks cool, and it went really well as well. Except he drove it into another car and then drove it into a wall.
Into the wall.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what comes for next year's dates. I don't think they've announced all that. I think they've got the FIA event coming up. I think fairly soon. I think it's only
it's the 30th. I think. It's
I think end of this month.
It's when Revo's on.
Yeah. That's at Scuba.
Yep.
But I'm not sure what sort of field they'll be there. And then over the weekend as well was that FIA Motorsport Olympic event.
That looked weird. Right.
Yeah, I didn't follow it too closely, and it was wet for qualifying, and I watched some of qualifying, and the driving was, very average, so I didn't go back and follow it up. So, yeah. And then SEMA's also on at the moment, so hopefully we get some details on.
Lots of pictures and videos is what I'm hoping.
Yeah, get some details on FD next season, and a few cars being announced, but it'll be interesting to see what else ends up coming out of SEMA, and definitely what's happening next year with FD, and seeming like they're going to potentially have a full field again for Pro, because it looks like a few Pro 2 guys are stepping up. So.
Oh yeah, did you see they put a V8 in Carvasa's Supra?
Yeah, I saw that had changed. Did he compete on the weekend in that?
He did. It
caught on fire the first day he tested it at Nico or wherever they tested it.
Oh yeah, it did. No, it wasn't Nico. That was Mabara.
Oh yeah.
It looked good there, but it didn't look like it was revving very nicely at the weekend.
What sort of V8 was it? Was it just an LS?
I have no idea. It's
or Toyota one or some variety.
I don't know. There was pictures somewhere. I just don't know enough about it.
But everybody's compared Daigo's car and his car, and everybody's always has said since the beginning that his car hasn't looked like it's handled as nicely as what Daigo's got going. So I wonder if changing the motor was trying to change distribution or something, trying to make it make it drive better. But
they're both the same setups. They were both
Wisefab, but Daigo's driven Wisefab, and I don't know how much Calvardo's driven Wisefab, but.
It looked horrible on the weekend. That's what I thought. It didn't move very nicely, and it didn't it looked like he just ran out of puff at the the top end.
How can you talk? It's not like you have a Supra.
No, well, it looked like it acted like my Neo, so that's why I said
that. So yeah, I guess we wait and see what comes for D1 next year. Then there's just the FIA coming end of this month, and the year's over for everybody.
But the drift season's pretty much over for the
world.
Yeah.
For the world. Oh no, we lie. SA Drift round 2 is coming up in this weekend or next weekend, so don't forget that.
Yeah, and they're funding it themselves as well, because I think before they were getting Tailem to help out, but this time I think they didn't get enough entrants, so Tailem were going to cancel the round, and now I think Drifting SA is actually funding the running of it, so they really need all those people to enter.
Yeah, well, it looks like they've got some decent numbers, because I think I saw that they've only got a few spots left in the higher class and 10 or so spots left in the lower class, so fingers crossed that keeps going. Do you see Mark, the old taxi sold his, Sphero's up for sale?
It's
up for sale.
It's cheap. I
didn't
have it, yeah.
I wish he was tuned in, because we could just fucking trader.
Maybe you can tag him and then he'll come on.
Yeah, nah, fuck him. Getting out of the scene.
But it's a cheap car. It's car and trailer.
No, it's got somebody should jump on that
or something.
Yeah, ready to go for that bloody series down there for sure. So that'd be sick. All right, well, let's get on to Michael. So for anybody who wasn't following us last year, or fuck you for not following us last year. But if you've only just got into drifting, we had Michael on last year. He's a bit of an entrepreneur.
Oh, actually. before you go too far, we actually one of our fans actually came to the Revo day, the training day. Remember the guy that was asking about the what should I do for my first track day?
Yeah.
He came up and said, "Hey, guess what? I bought a car and I'm here."
That's sick.
And then he's like, you probably don't know me. And I said, no, I don't. And he says, yeah. I sort of sent a message in the chat. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's awesome. He asked me to go for a ride, but I didn't get a chance to. Next time.
See, look at that.
So a fan of yours graduated to actually driving.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Which is super cool.
Yeah, see, like, people might hate us, but we've got some people in, so that's good. So yeah, Michael was on last year. He's been working on some tech stuff. I'll let him get into that more. But yeah, we had him on last year, and just he was trying to get some crowdfunding going. But then Michael's going to fill us in on all the craziness that's been the last couple of years and sort of how we've landed at where we are today. Because shit, a lot has happened for you in the last 18 months.
Yeah. Even longer. So Battleist as a business or a company has been running almost close to 3 years now, which is kind of crazy. A lot of people say, business fall over in the first 12 months, and for us to still be around is sort of a miracle. And that we're still sort of R&Ding after 3 years is I think it's kind of crazy. I think it's a bit of a acknowledgement that the product sort of still has some potential. So that's kind of, it's interesting nonetheless. But anyway, so since I was on the show last, we're basically prepping to launch our DriftBit V1 product. I've got one of the early prototypes here. The unit that we all sort of know and love, and this was actually the unit that we took to Formula Drift later on. But anyway, we were getting ready to crowdfund that. We're looking to raise 50 grand, which we didn't think was a super crazy target, but we fell short. The campaign didn't go as well as we thought, fell short. I think we ended up raising about 25 grand, give or take around there. But there was some cool takeaways from that crowdfunding campaign that we put together. Yeah, it fell over and that was sort of a bummer, but the exposure sort of got us in front of some really cool people that is really, it's progressed the project from where that was to where the product is today. So it was shit that I fell over, but meeting these people and getting in contact with them sort of has got the product to be what we think is super better than what it would have been if that campaign actually was successful. So I think the silver lining is that the product's going to be better for that campaign failing. So I would say that it's a good thing that it failed. So one of those people that we met was a couple of guys from Formula Drift, won't know names. Kevin, our friend Kevin, I won't say his surname, but anyway, we got invited to Formula Drift. They basically found out about us through the crowdfunding campaign, so that was cool. We got invited to go to Seattle last year, which was awesome, and we're fortunate enough to get our product in Ryan Turik's car, which hanging out with them for a weekend at Formula Drift was sort of, a bit of a drifting sort of mecca, and it was kind of cool that we were able to get invited and have our product in one of the best cars in the field. So that was super awesome, and we met all those guys, and we got to hang out with them all weekend, and just experiencing FD and what it does and how it all works and the scale of everything and what they're after, and that was super cool. And we hung out in the judges' boxes pretty much the whole weekend, and we're able to see how the judges work on an intimate level and how the judging worked in a functional requirements sort of specification where judging in that particular competition is super difficult for them, which is sort of one of the reasons why they invited us over. They were looking for a piece of technology to assist their ability to judge a little bit better. One of their problems now that they're having is that the field is so fast and so close together, it's really hard to split. And there's specific scenarios where the one that they kept on bringing up was that if a car speeds up, or the chase car speeds up or slows down, and the lead car speeds up or slows down, they're so close and there's so much smoke and happens so quickly, they couldn't differentiate between who was the cause of the slowdown or the speed up. So they were struggling to call winners and pick faults and whatnot. And yeah, that sort of environment was getting increasingly difficult to judge. Early in the days where the cars were a bit slower and they're running small tires, etc., it was easier. But as the car's getting faster and tighter and lighter and all those things those pros cars are doing now, it's getting super hard to split them. So they basically said that they've identified an area where they could improve in the judging. They were looking for a piece of tech that could possibly help. They heard about us and they invited us over, and they showed us around, and we had the product, as I said, in Ryan Tour's car, and we saw him go around live, which was really cool. But basically they had a list of requirements that were quite long and technically quite difficult to achieve. So they needed super high precision in terms of the accuracy of the units. So the units were accurate to about half a meter at that point. And unfortunately, that wasn't accurate enough for them. They needed down to the 10, 15 centimeter range where they could split some of these decisions. So they needed that to happen. We identified that the radio comms that we had in the units weren't good enough. It was basically built on 3G, 4G SIM card tech. And we found that when the event filled up, the audience was so big that they would knock out all the cell phone signal within the area. So we had to transfer all the comms from 3G to some sort of other radio frequency that would be a little bit more complicated because it's just the nature of how those radio signals work. And a bunch of other things, robustness, power, and all these sorts of things. But they basically said if you could solve these technical problems, that they would incorporate the product, or they would potentially incorporate the product into their offering of their product, which is the whole event, from qualifying and to judging and to doing live stuff where we could replay runs live and do all cool stuff like that. So they basically said, you do this, and then cool, we'll evaluate it, and if it's what we think it is, then cool, we'll incorporate it. And so from that point, we sort of went back to the drawing board, and we thought, it would be awesome to get Formula Drift on board, and that would be a super big win for the company. And so anyway, we sort of sat down and tried to evaluate how would we incorporate all these new features that they wanted. And from a technical standpoint, it would require basically reworking the whole product. The radio stuff was difficult, and the accuracy thing was difficult, and basically it all came down to cost. And unfortunately, by that point in the businesses, the running of the business, we sort of didn't have enough funds to do that. So we basically shifted our thinking from, getting into Formula Drift, which would be cool, that our main priority was to get the product to be a product that guys like us would use. You go to a track day and you could use it, and you could tune your car, and you could evaluate your performance on track, and it would be a tool to enhance your driving, and it would be an analytical tool where you could tune your car and do cool stuff like that. So getting into Formula Drift seemed like something down the future that we could sort of achieve. But getting the product to be a consumer type product was sort of where we thought that it would have the best impact and have the best ability for the business to have some sort of longevity, and essentially it would be the quickest way to make some money off the particular product that we had. So that was where that train of thought went. So around that time, which would have been, December, January of this year, we ran out of cash. A year of development and paying wages and paying, engineers and architects and circuit board designers and the long list of people that needed to be paid for the product to get where it was. We unfortunately had a runway and were sort of banking on the crowdfunding campaign to, fund the next round. And unfortunately, we ran out of cash. It was just simple as that. So everything sort of came to a bit of a shit end. Not a shit end. Bit of a hole, a bit of a delay and a rethink of what we wanted to do. And at that point, we looked around for funding for the next round. And some interesting things happened. We got in contact with a GPS manufacturer, or they got in contact with us, and they said that they had a project for us, which was to utilize some new GPS technology that will enable us to calculate drift angle in a very interesting way that hadn't been done before. So that was kind of cool. We didn't have the funds to do it, unfortunately, but we sort of kept that dialogue open, and we sort of evaluated, and we could do what we could do with, you know, a budget that was almost dying, and that kind of came to a halt. But anyway, I actually applied for a government grant early this year, and there was a lot of stuff going on with the government this year. There was an election, and no one knew who was getting in. And by the time that we thought that we were going to get the grant, we actually got an email confirmation from the jurisdiction that hands out grants that we were successful for this grant. And about 2 weeks later, an election was held. So we were worried that if the government changed over from Liberal to Labor, that the grant, generally when these things happen, the grant system sort of gets reevaluated, and there's a chance that we wouldn't have got it. But anyway, government stayed in. The minister, her name's Karen Andrews, she's a lovely lady. She helped us out through getting our project across the line. She got the same portfolio that she did before, which was awesome. And yeah, everything sort of fell our way, and we got this grant, which was awesome. So on the back of that grant, Battleist has sort of had this bit of an injection to get the product going again, and having this new GPS supplier on board and them wanting to do a project together was sort of the catalyst to say, all right, well, I think the technology is really going to transform, and it's going to be even better than it was before. We hadn't had some cash to pay our engineers and, again, the circuit board designers and all those kind of guys. So we're back. The product is alive. It's doing really cool. It's so much better than it was before. The last iteration of the technology, it was good. It did some really cool things, but the accuracy thing was a bit of an issue. And I'm not sure if anyone remembers, but we used to use a little loom that we put on the steering knuckles to identify where the relationship between the steering and the car body. That's how we define the drift angle. But this new tech using 2 GPS receivers will scrap that. So the complicated thing of pulling your car apart, putting a loom on, got rid of it, and it essentially reduced the cost on that mechanism of the product working, and we're able to translate that to this new GPS product. So as an example, I've got a little unit here. Oh, this is what I've got here. So this is the old GPS chip that we're using. If you can see, it's probably the size, I don't know, of your thumbnail.
Of your little unit.
Small. Of your little unit, yeah. So this GPS receiver is about the same size as my thumbnail. As you can imagine, its accuracy is sort of based on its cost and its size and whatnot. So that's what we were using before, and now we're using one of these guys. So it's kind of robust and a lot bigger, and it's a lot more expensive, and there's actually 2 of these guys in the units now. So we've gone from a relatively cheap, and it was effective. It did its job. So yeah, we went from that small guy that was cheap into this 2 of these guys that are expensive and awesome. And they actually use 2 of these antennas that sit on your roof. This is sort of where all the magic happens, where the signal that we get from the GPS satellites is about 30, 40 times better than what we did before. And that enables us to have super precise location data, and therefore, and using 2 of these GPS chips in conjunction with each other, we can evaluate the direction and its heading of the car, which enables us to determine speed and velocity, and most importantly, drift angle super accurately. So that was sort of the defining moment of how this product sort of became to life again. And another cool thing that we can do is upgrade the product whenever we want to incorporate a 3rd base station and get the accuracy of the units, and this is no bullshit, to millimeter accurate. So we've envisioned a product where if we want to down the future for FD, we can accomplish their accuracy requirements of 10 centimeters, where not only is it 10 centimeter accurate, it's millimeter accurate. So you'll be able to tell if a part of your tire is on the track or not. So we can upgrade to a Formula Drift spec style unit if we want to in the future. It's upgradable, so we have that ability to do that. So right now the product's designed, as I said, for guys like us that want to go to the track. The unit's about 50 centimeters or less than that accurate. So in terms of a GPS receiver, that's probably the best on the market. I dare say that there's not another motorsport style GPS product that's got the accuracy that we do. And I dare say there's no other motorsport GPS product that's doing drift angle, how we are, and the accuracy that we are. Like, I doubt it exists. We've looked, doesn't exist. There's someone else that's coming out with it soon, but I believe that we should be first on market for this type of product, which is cool. And baselining this particular GPS product against the current best, we're a magnitude of about 2 more accurate, and we're about half the cost. So sprint guys or time attack guys or whatever could put this particular GPS product on their car and get better data and cheaper for the price. So we're super stoked that this technology is available to us, and we're super excited that we can bring it out to you guys and whoever else to get this data for what we think is a relatively reasonable price to get it. So as a comparison's sake, a similar GPS product for like time attack is about $2,000. Ours is going to be about 850. We're hoping. That's what all the indicators are showing at the moment. That's price point. So it should be about half, and you should get about, the data should be about double better. It should be twice as it should be twice as good than our nearest competitor, which is super cool. So I'm hoping that once the drifting sort of world, which is our bread and butter, hopefully once we can get into a few guys drifters' hands and their cars, that will afford us the opportunity to get into different demographics of motorsport, like drifting and time attack and sprint and all sorts of other demographics.
Do you have a new unit with you there?
Yes. So
do you want to run us through sort of the unit that you have now?
Yeah, so in comparison, this was the old unit. So it's kind of cigarette box case sort of size. It had a bunch of ports on the front to plug in the loom and power and whatnot, but that was it. It had 2 little ports. It actually had a little computer in it, a little Linux computer. It had its problems getting that little computer to work. We've actually completely changed the architecture now, so it uses what we call a microcontroller, which is it's a computer chip that is simple. You put code on it, it just runs the code, and that's it. With this old unit, it was basically a computer, had RAM and memory and a actual little hard disk, an internal hard disk. So it had problems of getting stuck in cycles and booting up and then corrupting its disk, and we'd have to format it a lot. So it was a little bit unreliable in that sense. So when we're able to transition the technology, we changed the microprocessor architecture. So this is the current unit. I'll try and get it where you can see it. It's a bit more chunkier at the moment. It's still sort of prototype sort of size, and I had these cases over from another project, but we're trying to, in the future, the product should be about half as wide and half as high. So it should be close to the previous form factor of being about a cigarette pack size. But we can see that there's some ports and whatnot at the front. And one of the cool things that we're incorporating this iteration is this port here, and that's for CAN. So not only will it do Bluetooth data out to your phone, it will also do CAN out. So a lot of the high-end guys are using CAN for their Formula Drift cars, and one of their requirements was that they wanted to use that data inside their ECUs as a tuning mechanism to spike boost if a car was lacking angle and whatnot. So they were going to use it as a tuning tool to incorporate in their ECUs, which I thought was super cool. So that was one of the comments from the high-end guys, and believe it or not, the chip that we're using had a CAN bus on there, so it's basically just software to get it to work. So we thought we'd incorporate it, and that wasn't too difficult. But yeah, so
because that would mean you could get data on Dash Live as well, right?
Yeah,
for the driver.
Yeah, you could. On the previous version of the product, we actually had a mobile device that was tethered to the old unit all the time. It required it to work. So the old device would connect to your phone, and it would use that as a data stream, and you could stream your data live, etc. But it was required to be there. It had no memory on the device, so the phone was acting as a surrogate to the device to capture all the device's data. And we actually had a little dashboard on the phone where you could see speed and angle. But we ran a couple of experiments with drivers to see how many times they glanced over at the screen to see the angle and speed. And 100% of the time, drifters don't look at their phone or any other thing. So, from my experience, I'm sure you guys are the same. You're only aware of what your dials are doing if there's red flashy lights. Outside of that, you're sort of focused on.
Fuck it. Even then, in competition, you don't give a shit. You drive through it. So.
Yeah. So. I thought the dashboard on the phone was cool. From a tech perspective, it was really cool seeing your drift angle live and whatnot. You'd only really appreciate if you're a passenger. So, yeah, having drift angle live on a dash is probably not.
Yeah, but even for me, I've been able to go back with, like in the 350, having the wheel speed sensors in the front rather than the back have meant I've been able to go back and watch GoPro footage and know what my entry speeds and stuff like that are, because it's actually a true representation of speed. So if you've got, if you're running a GoPro or something in the car, even though what you're showing is going to be the fact that you don't even need to do that anymore, but
yeah, so we're kind of hoping, that the days of sticking a GoPro on your dash to review how you went on that lap is over. Like, we are building a cool interface where you can reveal your data in a really cool and clean way. There's no rewinding of videos required anymore.
Were they, so the people who are looking for integration into ECUs, that was like actual race teams?
Yeah, so it was basically the Ryan Turek camp that said that was something that they are doing with some other devices. They had your sensors and whatnot that were trying to guesstimate what the car was doing in a yaw state. Yeah. They said it wasn't working too well, and they couldn't get it to work that great, and it therefore wasn't a good tool to integrate into their ECUs. But they said something like this would be perfect for them. So these guys are looking for any sort of performance advantage that they can get, and if they can get 1% of a performance enhanced, they spend money on it. So. The teeny tiniest of improvements, they'll generally go for it. And this was, I don't know if it had any merit, but they wanted to experiment with it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be a bit scary using your sensors and stuff like that, because I would imagine if the car understeers, but it feels like it's sideways, then all of a sudden, oh yeah, let's shove more boosts in it, then all of a sudden it's driving at the wall a whole bunch faster or something like that. So.
Yeah, so the previous system did have its drawbacks like that. It was... having sensors on the knuckles, and we use a magnitude of gyroscopes to try and work out drift angle, but they were cheap. They were like, they were $20 gyroscopes, and we had 6 of them. Not 6, we had 3 on the old units, but they're prone to a little bit of error here and there, and use 3, and that's multiplied by 3. So any sort of error can be. We wrote software to try and mitigate all this, but there's always an element of stuff like that happening where it would miscalculate. So from that perspective, you're right. Like integrating it into the ECU and doing some stuff like that, you would have had to have tuned it with a level of cautiousness. But with the new systems, we haven't had a point where we've identified where they've been incorrect. We actually had some points in. So I retract that statement. But at some points in Gambia that was spitting out some interesting data, and it was the only time we've ever seen it. Basically because there was a lot of tree foliage along the course, and it was interrupting our GPS signal. So we had to reevaluate where we placed the antennas on the car. They were side by side, and they're about 80 centimeters apart. But when we put them front to back, it solved the problem. So there was actually a cool learning experience to figure that out. But I would dare say that rainy environment and Gambia would probably be the worst environment for this product to work in, and we're able to accommodate that environment anyway. So we basically had thick rain cover the whole weekend, and as I said, the course was lined with trees, which if anyone knows about GPS, it's probably the worst environment to be in. And yeah, we're able to get the units working perfectly after a bit of a rethink and a bit of a reevaluation on how that all worked. So yeah, we can confidently say that the units will work in almost any condition. So that being the worst, we got good data. Outside of that, we're pretty comfortable that the units are super awesome. So, but yeah, I would confidently say that they could base any ECU input off these units and have good results. What are you smiling, Age?
Just Connor's comment, that's all. He's just comparing. He bought a drift box while we were in Japan this year, and he had that running in his car. He actually said it worked better in Mount Gambier than it did at Evisu.
Really?
And some other place as well. But I don't know. I've heard kind of say it's been pretty interesting. Some of the numbers that he gets depending on what he does.
Yeah, so that product, the DriftBot product, it's almost 15 years old now. So you can imagine 15-year-old tech trying to identify this sort of calculating drift angle is quite a technical challenge. It's not very easy. A lot of people think, oh yeah, yaw and heading from GPS and you'll be fine. No way. DriftBox is based, as I said, on 15-year-old tech, 15-year-old chips, 15-year-old algorithms, and it also doesn't use a lot of the GPS constellations that are out in the sky. So a lot of GPS constellations that we use, so we use Japanese, Chinese, Russian, American, and some Australian GPS constellations. These constellations weren't in the sky 15 years ago. So GPS technology has excelled in the last around 15 years. So we're actually able to use all the GPS constellations out there, and where DriftBox sort of can only use a couple that it was tuned for about 15 years ago. So that's probably why he's getting some interesting data. There's actually a video of me in the Drift Life. There's a channel called Drift Life. They did a back-to-back comparison of the old product versus DriftBox, and it clearly shows that you'd finish drifting, our product would show that you had stopped drifting, and the DriftBox would continually bump up your drift, and about 10 seconds later it would zero out to zero. So yeah, when you got
I think Michael's lagging a little
bit.
Good.
Just antiquated.
He might come back. So you getting the same thing, Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll just have to wait a little bit for the internet to recover, I guess.
Well, that's a good picture of him now.
What have you got? No, I just got him looking sideways. Oh.
Okay, Mike, this.
No, he's just looking to the side. So he's still looking the other direction now, but he looks pretty frozen.
Well, he said a whole bunch of nerdy shit that I didn't know, and is he back?
Maybe.
What I heard was
his wrist thing.
Constellation and star signs or something, and that makes your DriftBit work.
Sorry, I think I lost you for a little. Are we back?
Yeah, we're back now. Yeah.
It's not the smoothest, but
no, he's fucking gone again. He fell off the internet.
So,
oh no!
I felt like I was talking for about 20 minutes there. And
what are you using for internet, mate?
I was just putting funny.
He's using our wonderful NBN connection in Australia.
He's gone like a version 1 of DriftBit.
I've actually.
Nah, your internet sucks, mate.
It's weird. It was working well before.
Sorry, is it still playing up?
Yep.
Are we?
Yeah.
Is it okay? Is it okay now? Shit. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. Are you on? Okay. Are you on like hardline or are you on a phone?
I'm on fiber to the point. Like I've probably got the best internet you can get.
You're probably paying for the shittiest connection.
Oh, this is actually the first time I've streamed since moving here, so I apologise for that. So I don't know where.
You told us about how you use your constellations and your star sign of Taurus meant that you get more accurate and
yeah. Well, what
basically fuck you, Connor. Your DriftBox is shit.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure where that. So basically, GPS receivers speak to constellations in the sky, and a lot more have been released in the last 15 years where the DriftBox is probably not using those, and our units are. So that's probably why there's huge discrepancy on accuracy and whatnot. And it's this sort of new tech that's enabled us to get, drift angle and super accurate, location data. So that's sort of been the breakthrough that these new GPS receivers have that enable us to do this awesome stuff. And
yeah.
Yeah, and I was going to say that not relying on gyroscopes and what we call IMUs, the motion sensing sensors. Not relying on them anymore has been one of the things that's made it awesome, and which we're super lucky that we have this technology that we can use.
So let's get EG to flick the screen, his thing out of the way, and get Michael to pull up his screen share. Because this is where stuff actually gets interesting, because the reality is what comes in your box, I think, sounds like it's a power cord, a couple of external GPS units, and a box you have to mount somewhere. Oh, mate, what have you been looking up?
Sorry.
You've been on my fan page, mate.
So when we had some time to reevaluate the product and what we wanted it to do, and what we thought would be some of the defining stuff to make it awesome. As I said, we sort of went back to the drawing board, which was cool. And we said, fuck it. What we really want is we don't want to go to FD anymore, because from a technical standpoint, that's too expensive. And we don't want to be a competition unit. We want to be just straight up a product that helps dudes drive better and tune their cars and do all that sort of awesome stuff. So we said, cool, DriftBit is now going to be an analytical tool. It's going to be a product where you can go driving, evaluate your run, see where you've done shit, see where you've done good, have some knowledge, and then go out again and improve. So from a drifter, I've been driving a lot since we got the grant and since we had some cash. And that's what I want. I feel like I'm a bit of a novice drifter, but I want to get better. I want to go out, drive, see what other guys are driving, compare my data, and use that as a way to improve. So that's sort of been the focus, and that's sort of these new couple of screens that we built that I'm about to show you. And yeah, so this is the first one. This is our segment compare screen, where I'm comparing myself to Justin Gruner, who's the Vic Drift champ. He came second overall. Previous Vic Drift champ. Justin's an awesome driver. He's proven himself to be awesome time and time again. So I put a unit in his car. He captured some data for us. I went out, captured some data, and the purpose of this screen is to compare his driving to mine. And I want to see what he's doing comparative to my driving, and use that as a way to identify what I was doing poorly. And apart from watching his driving and watching my driving, that wouldn't be possible before. So I can see what his speed is, where he's entering, where his angle is, and all these awesome things that you couldn't get before. So it was virtually impossible to see any of this with any sort of accuracy anyway. So in this particular screen, I am the red car. We're both at the start line. So
you're going to go faster for sure, because everybody knows the red car goes faster, isn't that right, EG?
That's correct. Yeah. If anyone knows this stretch of track at Winton, this is the back M's, and this was about 2 months ago at a Vic Drift comp. So it was actually the first comp I ever entered. So I'd imagine I'd be like the other heaps of other guys out there that entered a comp for the first time, and they weren't too sure, and they weren't too sure on the best line and where to enter and where to transition and how fast they could take their cars through corners. And this information is just not possible to get anymore. But now with the DriftBit product, we can do that. So I'll run through the lap, and Greg, if you want to comment as the cars go through, that might be cool. But what I'll do, I'll let the cars go through once, and then I'll break down each section from what I think are the interesting points where, if I was to go out again, I would improve in some particular areas with this knowledge that I now have. So
is this a good run or a shit run from you?
So just to level the playing field somewhat, this is one of my last laps of the day.
Okay.
And this is one of Justin's first laps. So it's not close on how we drive, but As I said, it's one of his first laps and one of my last laps. I actually cooked my motor at this event, so I only got about 10 laps in. So this is us taking off. He's already got out of the hole a lot quicker than me. You can see that his initiation is a lot earlier than mine. He's fired off. He was super consistent. My angle was really light before we entered turn 2. His line's super smooth. He shot off again. Again, he's got more angle virtually everywhere. His transition here is super tight, where mine's a little bit slow and lazy. And there we are popping out at the last turn. So it goes pretty quickly. That's relative quickness in terms of what happens in real life. It's just like a normal drift lap. It happens super quick. It's hard to identify what happens straight away. So
is that replay in real time?
It's sped up 1.5, so it's a little bit quicker than real life, just because it's easier to watch that way. So
are you able to slow it down or do anything like that, or you pretty much got to drag and drop where you want to be in the run?
We can drag and drop, which is what we're going to do now. So because Justin shot off, he was quicker than me most of the lap. It was sort of hard to get a side by side comparison, but we have the ability now to essentially put the cars exactly the same spot and see what we're doing differently, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to move my car to where it initiates, which is around here, just after the tree. If anyone can see here, this is my angle and this is my speed, and same on Justin's. Might be a bit small.
That number never changed through the run on your car, Michael, I don't think. I think it's at 1 degrees the whole way, didn't it?
It was definitely low, and I don't think it stayed at 1, but it was definitely low. So I initiate around there, and so here we go. And Justin is initiating around there. So this is sort of our initiation points. You can see in real life that's about 5 meters, give or take. There's about a car length and 2 car lengths plus. So it's about 10 meters, give or take. So Justin is entering earlier than I am, and he's entering about 10 Ks, 15 Ks faster than me. So, pussy, right? So this is sort of, as I said, my first comp, and I wasn't really too sure about where I was entering. But this shows it super clearly that I was entering way too late and slow. I was about 15 Ks off what I should be. So, with this knowledge in my hand now, I can go out and say, cool, get my foot on a little bit quicker. Maybe I need to put lower some tire pressure on my car. I was running about 60 PSI. Take some tire pressure out, just put my foot in a little bit harder, enter earlier, and then enter faster. Prior to checking out this data, I thought I was entering quite well, but in reality, now that I've got this data in front of me, it's pretty clear that I wasn't. So that was a really interesting take where what I thought I was doing on track was dispelled by the data. So I think that's super, super cool to figure that out. So yeah, anyway, let's move on to another point in the course that I think is interesting. So I want to see my corner speed turn 1 versus Justin's. So after I flicked in, let's have a look. Line them up. So here we are again, a little bit further down the track. Justin is 10 Ks quicker than me still, and he's got, we'll call it 5 degrees more angle. So not only is he faster, he's got more angle. So again, a bit of a takeaway. I'd probably say that's probably due to horsepower and some of the tire pressure that I was running, but interesting that he's faster and has more angle. So something for me to improve. I need to, again, maybe some pressure, lower the pressures in my car a bit and maybe throw it a little bit harder is probably what I need to do, which is sort of interesting takeaway. Moving on. What are we doing here? So I think this is super interesting where I'm running kind of super wide in this region, and it's making my line kind of a bit shit where Justin's coming super fast and clipping that inner point where I'm sort of a bit wide. And if we play from here, you can see Justin's. I started this point sort of at the same point, and Justin just shoots out of there. He's running he was running about 10 k's faster, but that line that he was carrying enables him to carry more speed through this area and have hit this outer region a lot better and cleaner than I am. And because I'm running that shallow line, it's hard for me to throw angle. And as you can see here, I'm virtually straight here, and he's at 46 degrees.
Well, you've also started gaining a crap load of speed, and he's already started washing off speed too.
Yeah, so this point sort of says it all, where we're virtually at the same speed, but I've got fucking fuck all angle. Sorry about the language, but yeah, it's pretty clearly that, you know, running this inside line and maintaining the speed enabled him to carry through angle on the outer clip at this point, and then carry it through this corner, where me going a little bit too wide out here was to my detriment. So again, that's an area where I now know that running that wider line is shit. Running an inner line enabled Justin to carry speed, and then therefore flick the car harder and get more angle. So, you know, without seeing this comparison, you know, I think that's super interesting. So again, moving on, carrying through. Again, this is another really cool just difference in our driving. Justin, you know, we're close to the same speed. Justin's got about 6 kilometers, not heaps on me, but he's almost got double the angle. We're at the same point of the track. He's probably a little bit more wider than I am.
I think the word you're looking for was triple.
Triple. Well, yeah, he's about 60, I'm about 20. So yeah, he's got. Thank you for the special comments, Greg. But yeah, you know, me running this shit line and having to catch up and going shallow here, it kind of killed my whole lap. He's thrown triple. He's got triple the angle. He obviously looks cool. He's out really wide, looking like it's awesome. Where me running that shallow line, that was obviously to my detriment. But now I know, right? So next time I go out, cool. I'm gonna try and cut here, maintain a little bit more speed, and then flick it harder through here. So now I know that. That's cool. So let's move on. And one of the interesting points that I come across analysing this run previously, yes, Justin's got a little bit more angle, but we have a very similar corner speed. So around the 50k, like, apart from obviously the angle's a bit different, he's got a little bit more than me, but our corner speed is similar. So I could potentially keep up with Justin if my line was better and I kept it a little bit more planted. So our corner speed through the corners is actually not too bad, in relative speaking. So that was kind of nice.
Shows how badly you can win and lose a run depending on line through certain parts. It's not necessarily through the corners. It's how you are set up for your transitions, and I think a lot of people tend to forget that, because that overlay there, 2 degrees is in angle really is minimal, and the fact that it's 2 kilometers an hour difference is also very minimal. So
yeah, exactly. So through this section we're super close. Like the cars, from what this data is showing, that the cars are set up to take corner speed relatively the same. It was just the setup into this corner that sort of would have killed me up to this point. So I now have the confidence to say that if my line and my setup to this corner was a little bit better, I could probably catch and stay with Justin Grinner. That's awesome. Like, that gives me a bit of a buzz. Like, that's awesome. Now I know that the corner bottom of my car is pretty good. Through this section, look, our lines are virtually on top of each other. Through this section, they're almost identical. Like, that's something that I can check off. Cool. Like, my corner speed and my angle through this part, grouse. Like, I can keep up with Justin Grinner. That's sick. Like, that was kind of a relief that my car's not completely shit. But yeah, this point in the track, hey, we're very similar. So it was basically the setup until this point that let me down. But now I know that. Now I know where to improve. Well, until this point anyway. So I thought that was super cool that our corner speed was similar and our angle through this point was very similar. So I thought it was super cool. So we continue our little run. I'd imagine we'd be doing very similar. So yeah, our exit speed out of this corner, very similar. So if I was side by side with Justin here, I'd be still close to him or on his door. So that's kind of cool. Following along, we do the same thing. Yeah. So sort of...
You would have smashed into the side of him.
Yeah, we sort of come apart here where our speed is maintained, but he sort of jumps out of the hole a little bit better. But that's interesting anyway. Mid corner, we're neck and neck, but out of here he's flicking a little bit harder, which is cool to know. Our transitions, where do we transition? Do I transition earlier? So we transition at a similar rate. So I should have elaborated on something before. The color of the line is essentially the amount of drift angle that we've got going on. So I've actually never seen this on any other product before, where visually we can see how much angle you're throwing without even having to roll the car through. So the white areas are essentially no angle, and the colored areas have more angle. So the smaller the gap in the white area, you can actually see if your transition's tight or not. So if there's lots of white area like here, where the little red car is going through now, this transition's horrible. It's long. You can see what the car's doing. It's kind of slow and lazy, where if we move the cars up here, the line only goes white briefly, so that shows that the transition is quite snappy. Well, it's snappier, which is cool. I think it's kind of cool to see, visually see your angle. Like it's this sort of perspective on drifting's never been done before, and I think having a cool overview like that and saying I can analyze this whole run without even running the cars through, like I think that's super cool. And again, I don't think it's ever been done by another motorsport product before. But anyway, continuing on through this run, I'm not sure if it's super. If you guys want to see more, should I go through the rest of the lap, or have we sort of got to feel what it's about?
Yep, keep going.
Cool. All right, so we're sort of at the hairpin, which is one of the slower areas. As you can see here, we had a similar area of transition in this similar sort of rate, but Justin's been able to get out of the hole a little bit quicker and enter this section of the track a bit quicker. My speed being 61, but I do have more angle there, so that's kind of cool. That's probably why there's a discrepancy between the speeds. I'm throwing, 37. He's 24.
Yeah, he's
30 degrees more.
Angle for speed.
Yeah, why is he being a bitch?
But our line's super similar. But yeah, I'm actually faster than Justin through here, but yeah, at the detriment of angle. Oh, sorry, I'm slower, but at the detriment of angle. So I'm sure Justin's he'd probably look better. Speed, I've actually slowed down, and I was a bit wobbly there because, again, first couple of first times through. What are we doing here? So I'm a little bit faster, similar area, not by much. Again, this sort of goes back to that previous corner where we had similar corner speed. I'm on 70 here, he's on 65. We're both on 30 degrees. So damn, like my car can keep up with Justin's car through the corners. It's sort of just a setup that sort of lets me down. So yeah, perfect way to analyze this would be that, I can compete with sort of some of the big boys. I just got to get my lines a bit better, and if my lines a bit better, I can probably keep up, which is, hearing that seeing that is a bit of a boost for me. Anyway, continue. We're about to enter the transition into the last corner. What's Justin doing, or what am I doing? It's a little bit finicky to line them up perfectly because the data sort of jumps a little bit. Justin has sped up, as we saw in the previous corner, where he was able to shoot out of the corner a little bit quicker than me, and he has thrown a little bit more angle. So corner speed's good, but he's able to get into a transition a little bit quicker, which is...
It looks like from your data that there's a slightly different line, and that's why.
Yeah.
He's getting more exit speed, which makes sense. So he's a bit wider.
He's coming out wider and then able to duck, come out wider, come into the corner with a bit of momentum. Yep. Again, our transition's sort of similar. They come through a little bit similar. If I had to evaluate these transitions, judging by the shallowness of the line, looks like my transition here is a little bit more snappier. But again, I think that's to the detriment of a little bit of speed. So it looks like his transition's a little bit lazier, but he's able to get 15 more Ks on me and flicking a little bit harder. So I'm at 54 Ks, he's at 67. I'm only at 31 degrees angle, he's at 60. So he's got double the angle and a little bit more speed. So I've actually thrown a little bit tighter transition, but it looks like that sort of lazy transitions enabled him to get a little bit more speed and a little bit more angle. So corner probably runs a little bit nicer, but it's probably not as cool. So I guess that's a toss-up. Like, what do you do on this corner? Do you go for a little bit more speed and a little bit more angle, or do you have a snappy transition? There's sort of plays, some plays better and some doesn't, but I would say that what Justin's doing is sort of the gold standard. So if I was to do this, if I was to do this lap again, I'd probably go a little bit of we'll call it a Justin transition in the turn 4 and try and pick up a little bit more speed and angle through here. So that's pretty common throughout this lap where, getting a better line and a little bit of better transition, he was able to set his corners up or set the initiation of those corners up a little bit better, which I think is probably one of the big takeaways. But as we can see here, mid-corner, we're, again, matched up very similarly. He's 64, sorry, I'm 64, he's 60, I'm 40 degrees, he's 37. So once we enter the corner, I can, again, keep up with Justin Gruner, which is kind of cool. So again, we sort of maintain similar speed, similar angle throughout the corner. And I think we'll probably see that once we're out of the corner, he can sort of shoot off a little bit better than me because he's done that the entire lap. He actually runs a little bit shallow. And yeah, we're seeing it here. Oh, similar. I'm actually a little bit wider and more angle at that point. And I actually drift a little bit further out of the corner where he sort of straightens up a little bit earlier. Yeah, so he's almost straight there, but he's got more speed. So I think this is pretty cool. Like, from this, I've been able to learn a lot about how my lap went and where to improve, Starting from the start, I'm entering a bit shit here. I'm a little bit too slow. I wasn't clipping the inner point of turn 1 as much, and my line was a little bit too wide, which made me go slow. That slowness led me to have a very lazy and shit transition where I was almost straight for a lot of this section here, where Justin was fast and had lots of angle into turn 2, which obviously that's better to do. But yeah, he was able to maintain a similar corner speed, but Justin was able to kick out of the box a little bit better, which was interesting. As I said, probably a little bit of PSI was, the key here, and similar for the rest of the track. His lines were a bit better, and he was able to shoot out of the box a bit more. So there's interesting takeaways from this for me, where I could probably tune my lap and head into the next time I went out to the track with a bit of different mindset, and again, tune my car a little bit better to get more more speed into the initiation and into the corners. So again, this for me, this is awesome. I was able to learn and get some new knowledge about how to attack this course a bit better. And, the objective is to drive better. And with this new knowledge, I can probably attack this course with a new way of thinking and probably do a better lap, which is what we all want, right? For me, developing this product, and I can see this, and it's actually a useful and analytical tool that can help me and help other drivers. I think that's super, super cool.
So Russell's question in the comments: would you be able to do it because you've got CAN going to the ECU? Can it communicate back, and you end up with your throttle inputs, brake inputs, and clutch inputs, depending on what you've got in? Like what sort of ECU inputs you've got going? Would you be able to, maybe not now, but eventually be able to do it as part of your overlay on your software instead of having to try and line it up with your ECU's logging?
Yeah, so CAN sort of works. It's a two-way bus, so if it can read, it can write, essentially. So yeah, from a hardware perspective, yes, we can do that. Are we doing that at the moment? No. It's we had a few comments that people would like that, but it's not overwhelming enough where we think it's going to be a super important feature that everyone needs to have.
But but that sort of stuff being purely software is something that should the product actually take off with enough interest that it's something that you guys could write in and.
Yeah, no, exactly right. There's a bunch of stuff that we want to do, and we got plans to implement them as time goes on. The initial plan is to get what we think is the best product we can release for the money that we have, and continually improve and add features as we go along. So just to touch on the release, the plan is to launch a beta. We've got 100 units for a beta before Christmas. They're pretty much all accounted for. We've got about 100 people that put their hand up to that want to be part of this pilot program.
And I better be on that shit, mate. You better not have fucking screwed me over.
Don't worry, you're all right. So, yeah, this pilot program is going to get units in the hands of people that really want it, and it's going to give them a bit of a soundboard to say, hey, cool, you're already doing can you add in the throttle? Or, hey, I really like this screen. Can you, instead of being a red car, can you make a white car? And can you make the car colors user selectable? And can I change the shape to a 180?
Oh, yeah. Whatever? Yeah, can I go into paint and make my livery on the little car?
Yeah, so essentially the pilot program is going to be for dudes that want to contribute on more of a level and make the product more tailored to what they think will be cool. So that initial 50 to 100 units is going to give the ability for people to do that. So that's something that we're going to do, and yeah, that's coming soon. So I do have more screens to share. So this was sort of our
move on. I know we discussed about this Mount Gambier, but how do you just explain how you actually get the lap out of it? Like, is it automatic or is it manual? Do you have to set it? How do you define it? And if you're doing like constant laps, then what happens?
Yeah, so that's a good question. This is another screen. So this is what a raw output looks like from a run. As you can see, there's a bunch of lines, and so this was from a session that went from, this was Daniel Shoulders. It went from 3:49 to 4:09, so 20 minutes worth of runs. And
just wait, Shoulders' car lasted that long without him having to like stop to pull some parts off it?
As far as I know,
exploding off.
I didn't say to the end, but I think he drove the thing onto the trailer. So as far as I know, the thing was driving at the end of the day. It was missing some.
Yeah, some parts that he had to pull off to stop it from dragging.
Yeah, there was some bits and pieces missing off that car. But yeah, as far as I know, mechanically wise, it was, I think it had a power steering pump issue or something like that. Apart from that, everything else was, it's still functional by the end of the day. It was still a functional drift car. So anyway, Daniel was actually in the car with Daniel, which was super cool. Yeah, in a session, he probably banged out 10, 15 laps, which is, the sessions were pretty long. It was something that we didn't account for, thinking that guys would do about 5 laps come in, 10 laps come in. But yeah, these guys were out for 20 minutes and just back-to-back laps. It's good for the drivers, of course, but from a data perspective, we weren't really ready for this sort of this setup. But anyway, so I'll show you what currently the system does, where, again, this was a bunch of Daniel's laps. We'll go to the start. We do have the ability to cut a lap up for previous analysis. So I'll cut up his first lap. We can trim the start, and then I'll move the car, and I can trim the rest off. So all the other laps have disappeared, and now I've got a clean run of that first lap that Daniel's done on that section. So, we're able to cut it up. I can now save this segment and call it, chop run number 1, chop run with the R.
Chop run in the grass off the first corner.
Yeah. So I can now save it, and now this segment is ready for analysis like on that previous screen. We can do back-to-back to whatever. So we could back-to-back one of his runs to himself or to anyone else that was running at that event. Throughout the event, that we found that there were so many laps going on, and it was taking so long to chop up all these laps, that I called one of our software developers up and I said, it's a bit of a laborious task to cut the laps up, and it was a bit shit, and there was so many, I was losing tracks, etc. That we implemented a system that the actual software would cut the laps up automatically for us. So in this screen, it's showing some cut up laps. This is Matt Harvey versus Adam LZ, and it cut the laps up automatically for us, which was super awesome. Where it meant that I didn't need to do it anymore. And now there's an administration portal on another screen that I'll show you later on, where you can set a start line and a finish line, and the system will automatically cut the laps up into segments for you, which saves a lot of time and it makes it easier to manage later on.
Is that something you can do post event?
Yeah. But we want to make it so that you go for a run, you specify the start and the finish, the system will know where it is, and it will just do it automatically from that point forward.
Yeah, I'm just more thinking from like if a circuit guy decided to use the tech, it's not just going to start cutting up their laps for no reason and doing a small section.
Yeah.
Or if I had it in the car and decided to go do, a club sprint style event, that all of a sudden it's not going to be cutting my lap up and be like, this is the section you drift, fuck off the rest of my lap, sort of thing.
Yeah. So we want to make it as not annoying as possible. Yep. So we want to be able to say, cool, this is my run. I want to see segment at Winton at the back end, or I want to see it at the front S's. I want to see it an entire lap, and then specify, and then it will just cut it up automatically.
Yeah.
So that's something that we thought of, but we actually thought about this on the fly, and we were able to do it in a night. So that was sort of a cool learning. And then as we're a startup and we're developing the product as we go. It's cool to go to events and learn these things, and we thought we had a relatively complete package when we rocked up to the event. And then we found that guys were out for 25 minutes, half an hour, and they were running, 20 laps, and it was shit to cut them up. Fuck, how can we fix this? I called my boy Jeremy up. I'm like, hey man, this is super annoying. What can we do to fix it? And he's like, oh, I think if I do this and I can set a start point and a finish point, we can make the system automatically cut it up. Yeah, cool, man. Give it a go. Anyway, 20 minutes later, it worked. So that was awesome. So as we go to events, we learn new stuff, and we make changes. So this is sort of what we want to do with the pilot program. We want to give units to guys and get them to say, yeah, I found this that was wrong with it. Can you guys fix it? Yeah, cool, no worries. And we can do this sort of shit relatively quickly. So it's awesome getting out there ourselves, but having a user base of 100 new guys having the product, and that enables us to have hundreds more experiences out on track where we can iterate the product and make it better for everyone else. So that's the whole objective of the pilot program, and that's the whole point of getting out to track days. So anyway, this was Mount Gambier 3 weeks ago. We're fortunate enough to get units into some of the best cars there. Matt Harvey was sort of the standout for me. Dude's awesome, and he's fun to be around. He's fun to watch. Obviously, Adam LZ was super cool to get a unit in his car as well. And the data shows a pretty cool picture of what was happening on track, where, look, I'll go through a little bit of it now, and we've sort of seen the functionality of the products. I won't harp on about that too much, but over the course of the weekend, from what I could tell, Matt was I based Matt Harvey, we're calling him the gold standard, where he was sort of doing everything right. He was throwing the best angle. He was going the fastest, and his line was the coolest. So I sort of based Daniel's runs off Matt Harvey's, and the same as Adam. Adam had never driven the course before. He was driving a brand new car. So basing everything off Matt Harvey's runs I thought that was a really good perspective. So anyway, Matt Harvey's entering 73 Ks. Adam LZ not entering really yet. So Adam enters a little bit late from what the data shows. And the run sort of shows that Matt Harvey throws more angle and has more speed throughout the whole sort of course, where Adam is faster, he's basically shallow. He's a good example, sort of a little bit past initiation. Matt Harvey, my boy, virtually 50 degrees. Adam LZ is about 20 Ks, so a lot shallower, a little bit faster, but it shows us a pretty clear picture that Matt Harvey's sort of a bit flamboyant and throwing down a little bit faster, a little bit more angle, which I think better viewing. And not only that, he's consistently throwing more and more lock-on. So he initiates about 30, and then before the turn exit, he's about 50 degrees. So that's, turn one, that's a significant amount of lock for that piece of the track, where Adam is about 40. So he actually gets a little bit more angle, which is kind of cool. He does it a little bit later in turn one. So Matt Harvey throws on lock pretty quickly and maintains his lock throughout the corner, maintains his speed. Adam little bit less lock, a lot less lock, a bit more speed. So that's pretty indicative of Adam's driving through the whole weekend, where he was running a shallower line, had similar speed to Matt, but he had less angle. So it looked like Adam was sort of using the line to keep up. With the speed, but his angle suffered for it. So here's a good point where Adam sort of shot up to 84, almost close to 100k. Sorry. Adam is slower, similar angle. So again, pretty indicative of how his driving was the whole weekend. The line here is pretty interesting to see, where you can see Adam sort of cuts. He runs like an inside line the whole length of the course, where Matt Harvey sort of uses the whole track, and it's all the outside. He uses all the outside line. Again, it seemed like that was sort of Adam's, not a trick, but that was sort of the way he was driving, where he was running a shallower line to keep the pace on, which I thought was pretty cool to watch. So yeah, I guess you call this turn 2. Similar speed, but yeah, angle sort of, double. Adam's just a tiny hair quicker, but yeah, half the angle, and he's shallow. He sort of did this everywhere. Matt Harvey's transitioning like a boss. Adam's transitions kind of similar, but again, he's running that real shallow inside line.
Longer.
Yeah, a bit longer. Again, here we go. Oh no, Adam's actually thrown a little bit more lock here. Angle a little bit. So yeah, this turn, Adam actually a bit faster. Obviously a bit faster because he's running that shallower line, cutting the corner a bit. But again, a little bit sort of how he was driving the whole weekend. And yeah, I'm not sure if this is sort of interesting to keep going through, but yeah, it sort of shows that, Adam's weakness with this course earlier on was that he was, throwing the shallow line, and was sort of using that to maintain speed, to keep up with the other guys. But me and Adam sort of went through the data, and I showed him that, this was the line he was taking compared to Matt Harvey, who was sort of a veteran of the track. And he was like, yeah, cool. Using this, being able to visualize what I was doing on track, I now know that, yeah, I want to go a little bit wider, and yeah, cool, I want to throw a little bit more angle in these areas. And guess what happened? He went out, and it's exactly what he did, and he was able to get third place in the comp. So he was able to visualize this data, and he used the knowledge that he gained from visualizing this data to enable him to, do what we all want to do, drive a little bit better.
So I know with other sort of GPS units for circuit racing and things like that, a lot of the time they sort of recommend for drivers to go out there and sort of drive an outside line and inside line of their track to sort of give them a rough idea on, where the actual track limits are for say, especially a track like Gambier itself that's so undulating and with trees over the top. Your Google Maps layout isn't going to give you necessarily a true representation of exactly where the track sort of lays, because at the start of the run there's everybody's entering out on the grass when they're not truly entering out on the grass. Can you sort of, I know you've got it set up so you can only do the 2 overlays, but do you think in the future you'd potentially do it so you could do more overlays, and you could almost have your, I guess, if say I was looking for my ideal qualifying line, I could go and drive my ideal qualifying line, with no, not drift it, but just go and drive that line, and then I can try and match that line through, I guess you could do, through it or something like that. I guess even over time, that the more the tracks that have been used more often, you're probably potentially going to be able to create more of your own picture of what the track itself is like, because there'll be just potentially so much data from people doing it. I'm sure even from Mount Gambier you could probably draw a better picture of the track than Google Maps has, because you have probably several hundred laps on that track now.
Yeah, so there was a couple of things in that question. Yes, we want to be able to have a better UI based on Google Maps. The plan is to have some sort of administrative process where, we actually draw on the course, and it sort of removes or darkens a lot of the background, so you're only seeing the course.
Yeah.
We did that for Formula Drift, and it looked really cool. It is a little bit time consuming, so we do want to improve the process of administrating the outlining of the laps of the course, so it's a better viewing experience. There was another thing in that where you were talking about the undulation of the course. The units do have the ability to capture altitude, so we can see within the data, it's not shown here, where the cars go up and down hills and crests. So that'll be something cool to add. And another thing that we want to add in the future I was going to put it to the audience to see what they thought. That was one of the comments that EG had when he viewed this interface for the first time, was that he wasn't sure where the peaks and troughs of the hills were, and he also wasn't sure what conditions were these laps in. So we've got a bunch of laps and we can see them, review them. That's pretty cool. And the system has automatically cut all the laps and specified a time of where they are, but we don't really know what the conditions were on each particular lap. So we're thinking about adding a camera system into the units where it's capturing video data and overlaying it in this particular screen. So we're thinking about having a camera view just here of what the car's doing, so as a visual reference to what the car was doing. So we have that third reference of being a camera, so having the camera data overlaid on top where you can see if it was wet, if it was dry, if you were chasing, where the hills and the crests were and what the car was doing in that particular time from a camera perspective, and then lining up all the data so that it's all in the same spot, and lining up the camera footage so it's all in the same spot in reference to the data. So that was one of the things that I wanted to ask. A couple of people have mentioned the camera would be cool, and you said that it would be cool, and I think it will be cool. But if anyone thinks that would be cool, I'd like to hear from you. And
doing a camera like that just drives your cost absolutely through the roof, though, right?
You'd actually be surprised. The chips that we got on board are really, they can handle it at the moment. We need to do some testing. We haven't implemented and tested them yet. So we believe that the chipset that's on there now could do a camera. And you'd be surprised how cheap cameras are nowadays. You can get like a 5 megapixel thumb size camera for not much money. So it would just be adding the camera and the cabling into the unit, and that will sort of be it. So it would be an additional $50 to $100 for the user, but I think $50 to $100 for the user is probably what you're getting for that money, is probably a lot better than without. So that'll be the question that other people need to ask, that I need to ask other people, that for an extra $50 to $100, would you want a camera?
So, I think it'd be a good idea, because then you get an idea of the conditions, and you might find it's actually even cheaper than that, because I've got doing the RC stuff and putting cameras on the RC stuff. You really don't need like that high quality picture like in an action cam.
Yeah, exactly right.
Idea of what's happening. So,
but if people are going to spend money, are they going to end up wanting something that they can pretty much just grab and chuck on the internet and be like, I've got some like.
You're expecting a lot from, especially if you're not willing to pay that much money. So.
No, of course, but it's potential, just even options that you can get a HD camera, or you can get a potato cam, depending on what you're wanting. Connor was asking if there's any way of readjusting the line over the picture to try and the fact that the cars are on the grass on entry, but I think a lot of that, even if you could pick it up and move it, then you would end up with other parts that are probably not in the right spot anyway.
Yeah, so the cars were actually, in reality, this part of the course, I believe it's been widened, and that's actually in reality a real part of the course. From my understanding of what was happening in reality, where this part has been widened somewhat, and cars are going a little bit wide in this area. So that's actually what happened in reality, believe it or not. So I guess we could, but you'd be manipulating what was actually happening. Yeah.
Would
so
you
the rest
would you use a different map provider besides Google Maps?
Yeah, there's a few that we've tested out, Mapbox being one, and there's other paid services that you can get where the actual the image quality is a lot better.
Like Nearmap and stuff like that.
Yeah, to be evaluated. We actually spoke to another party about doing our graphics for us. I won't name names, but this third party was able to map this data in 3D. So I'll turn my screen sharing off for just a moment.
So we had a conversation about this shit, and then you told me you thought I was saying it wasn't good enough, and then you've gone and done it.
Well, we haven't done it, and it's something that we look at the moment. We're not doing it, but it's something that's possible in the future. So the data that we're getting out of the units is so good that mapping it in 3D is a reality. I'm frantically trying to find the demo. I might not, and I apologize if I can't find it.
Right.
To tease everyone, a couple of people have seen it.
You did that a year and a half ago with the first product, mate. So
yeah, I might not. Unfortunately, I might not be able to find it on quick notice. I should have been a little bit more prepared. I'll post it up somewhere for those that are interested, or if you want, ping me and I'll dig it up after the show. And
if you don't want it on the main Battleist site, then you can always just chuck it into the community group.
Yeah, which is probably what I will do. So yeah, we were approached by a third party, and they have the ability to create the 3D environments for motorsport games. And we said they wanted us to partner with them to get units in a race environment, and my request was that they would then build the user interface for us and map everything in 3D. And we had a couple of plays and some demos, and it was pretty awesome. I hate to talk it up without being able to show it.
I think this is the one. Oh no, this is the one you sent me a while ago, I think.
Yeah, there was a couple. There was me going around Calder, and there was
Ryan's run around Seattle.
Yeah, Ryan Trick's run around Seattle. But unfortunately, I don't think I can find it. Sorry, guys. Actually, it might be in my email.
Just be careful that fan page one doesn't open up again.
Are you seeing my screen right now? Or my
No, you're good.
Cool. Is there some background music that we can?
But I guess the reality is, at the moment, you've built a product that is expandable, plus pretty much does everything you want it to do from a data collection point of view. Now it's just a matter of what somebody can sit there, and time and money will allow you to represent that data in different forms and fashions, really.
Yeah, so from a data collection perspective, sorry if you could hear that.
No.
From a data collection sorry, it was the theme song from Tokyo Drift that I overlaid on this video. From a data collection perspective, the unit is awesome. It's robust. Here we go. Okay. All right, bear with me for a second. I'm just bringing it up.
Sure.
So from a data perspective, the units are awesome. Like, there's not much more development that the hardware device needs. Like, we've tested it thoroughly. It's awesome. It works 100% of the time. We're pretty confident that the architecture that we're using is super sweet, and it's only going to get better. Like, there's some tweaks that we can do with the firmware to make it better. So from a hardware perspective, it is great. From a software perspective, there's some improvements, but the underlying factor is that the data's good, and from there we can build whatever we want on the top of it, which is sort of what we want. So I'm not sure if you guys can see. Can you see what's going on here? So this is...
I don't know if the refresh rate's going to be quick enough to actually pick this up.
Yeah. So this is data that was captured by the units, overlaid in 3D. So
yeah, it's working.
There's a little bit of a glitch in the track, because I believe that the track was modified against what was in reality to make this game work a little bit better. But as you can see, the car's approximately on the track all the time. So yeah, it goes a bit funny here. But the takeaway is this demo that you guys can see is... I'll try and hide that so you can't see whose name it was. But this demo...
It's probably a bit late now, but...
Yeah.
Probably a little bit late. This demo...
Everyone forget.
Like a Men in Black, motherfuckers. Start the episode again.
This demo, this 3D demo here is probably the first time that I know of that a drifting device was able to be rendered in a 3D environment that's based on reality. But that's how good the data is, and that's sort of what we can achieve. So this UI having, something similar to this demo, like, that's achievable in the future. That's something that we can do. It's costly. But if we get to that point where we think it's going to be cool, then we'll do it. So that's sort of a good point to say that the technology's there. It's just the software layers on top that we can improve on. That's going to enable us to do all these awesome things in the future. So this is something that might be, in a DriftBit product coming to you in the future.
So that was data taken from the version 1 DriftBit?
This is version 2. Well, it was a hybrid.
Version 2. Oh, okay. So if someone was to crash and roll, it would also record that as well.
Yeah, if you put your car into a wall, it will show your car going into a wall.
Yeah, nice. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So the conversation that we're having with these guys was that we wanted to build a scoring system on top of this. So right now, using this version of the UI, we can't really, from mathematical perspective, we don't know the distance between here and here. It's sort of, we can have a guess, but if we map everything in 3D, and everything's in a 3D environment, identifying those distances becomes easier. So the conversation went down that way, where we wanted to use it to help identify where the car was in the 3D space more accurately than what this 2D Google map was doing.
But how are you identifying exactly where on the car the GPS unit is itself, or it doesn't really?
No, so what we do, right now we place the units on the GPS receivers on either side of the top of the roof. Sorry. So we know which one of the units is the point of where the reference is, and then we have a back-end administrative side where we say, cool, this is where the 2 points are, and it essentially moves digitally where that point is to the center of the car.
Yes, that's how you're picking up your data, but it won't necessarily know how big the car is that it's sitting on or anything like that, though.
So we have plans to, again, have this administration process where you can put in the dimensions of the car, and it will know where the car is in reference to that 3D space. But
and is that just because you'll be able to use sort of the way the car's pivoting and rotating, using the GPS unit, it should be able to work out sort of where those where the antennas are sitting on the car itself?
Yeah, so it'll just essentially improve the accuracy by a little bit. So right now we zero out where all the data goes based on where we specify where the antennas are in terms of the system. In the future, we're going to specify where the car's dimensions are, and then that will improve it again.
Yeah.
And then once we do that, we actually got a test in December, and we're doing a test where we're putting the units on 2 cars, and we're going tandem drifting, and we're getting a couple of drones in the air, and we're going to measure the distance in terms of where the drone relation to the drones, and we're going to see if we can use them to see if it will accurately measure the distance between two cars.
Sick.
So
that's cool.
That's one of the next steps in getting a competition spec device, but we sort of want to run it as an experiment to see if it's possible. As I said, the data coming out of these units have been super awesome, and we've got no reason to expect that there'll be any errors or issues. There might be some. Again, it's an experiment. We've got to test it to prove this theory. There might be some issues with the closest of the antennas, and maybe they conflict with each other and the frequencies in which they receive the signals. Stuff we've got to prove, but yeah, we're pretty hopeful that, the big picture is that we're going to have two cars like this on the Google map.
Let's be real. If you really want to fuck with the unit, you need to get them in 10 cars at a DCA event with a 10-car train going, and you will find if that shit conflicts or not.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, the first step is to measure it all, and we're going to have a drone in the air, and we want to have a side-by-side comparison of what the cars are doing on the Google map to what they're doing on the drone footage. And we can do some interesting stuff with overlays and see if they overlay well. So a reality shot versus the augmented reality shot, and see if they overlay. So that's coming in December, and we'll probably post our findings if they're good. We'll post our findings. Yeah, so come January, if you haven't heard anything about that, it probably weren't good, and we'll probably need some more investigation. Yeah. Back to the drawing board on that one, yeah. So yeah, we're doing that in December. That's all booked, and yeah, I'm kind of hopeful that they're going to work. And that was.
But with that, you're only really worried about potential interference with trying to get signal strength right, because doesn't every single GPS unit have a unique serial number or something like that?
It's just a receiver, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure every single one has. But doesn't every single one have its own serial number or something like that?
Shouldn't really matter.
No, so they don't work like a phone where it's got an ID and the satellite talks with. The satellite basically broadcasts info, and the GPS receiver receives it. There's built-in countermeasures in GPS receivers that all GPS hardware developers have to input, which is I think what you're thinking about. So GPS receivers will stop working above 500 k's an hour. I think it's something like that. So there is countermeasures to stop them being used for weird shit like putting them on guidance systems and missiles and shit like that. So that's what I think you're talking about, being able to uniquely identify each GPS receiver. No, you can't do that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's not a worry. But we have two receivers on the car and they don't conflict with each other, but we've done some work on the actual circuit boards to counteract that. We have had 4 receivers on the same car, and that was fine. We haven't had them on 2 different cars. That's the last experiment that we've got to check.
So when you said you have 4 receivers, was that 2 different devices in the same car?
Yeah, so 2 different devices on the same car, and that was at Winton, and the software was able to say that those 4 devices didn't move on the same frame. So they're always the same distance apart, which is sort of what we wanted to achieve. So that's why I said before that we're pretty confident that it's going to work. It's just to be thorough that we're going to put them on 2 cars. And it sort of gives us an excuse to take us and some of the boys drifting.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yep. I think that's all I had in terms of demos. So I can turn this off unless anyone's got any other questions.
How do you share this data at the moment? So at the moment you've collected and you're running it obviously, but if you were to say, I want to compare it with someone else that's not living in the same city, then is it a file that you send, or do you upload it online, or what do you do?
So right now, all the data's on a SD card on the unit, and to get that data off the unit, you need to grab the SD card, put it in your computer, and then upload it to our server. Once it's on the server, it's sort of open. We haven't really put any time or development into abstracting any of that data from anyone. So when it's on the system, it's on the system. That's it. We do want to implement a system where you can only share it with people that you specify, or a group of people that you specify, or no one, or whoever. So that is a consideration that a lot of people have said, that they don't want anyone looking at their data, and they're pretty protective of it. But we have found that in reality, like, no one really cares unless you're doing something dodgy like street pole. What do you guys say? Street pole.
Street lamp inspection. Yeah, not supposed to be inspecting the poles themselves, because then you've hit it. Street lamp inspections.
So unless you're inspecting some street lamps, maybe you don't want your data out there. But we've had these units on some of the biggest drifters in the world. Adam LZ, Ryan Turek, Luke Fink, etc. And no one really. I thought those guys would be a little bit protective of their data, and no, they're happy to share it. So I think it might be some of those guys that are more worried about. They're probably worried about the boogeyman and bed bugs and all that sort of shit, where they'd be
unplug the fucking thing then.
Yeah, so it's sort of those guys, I think, that would be cautious about sharing the data, whereas, as I said, all these other massive drivers around the world, they're happy to share it. So, but anyway,
but at this stage you don't. But at this stage you have to have it uploaded to the server. If, say, for me being on Optus at Mount Gambier, the reception sucks in that volcano, that means I wouldn't have access to my data until I got reception.
So the plan is that the system is closed loop. It's the device is going to communicate to your phone to upload data to it, and then from there you can do this analysis. So this screen that you're seeing right now, in some way, shape, or form, will be on your phone, and you can check out your analysis on your phone or on your tablet or whatever you upload the data to. It's going to be via Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. It's going to be Bluetooth if there's no camera. If it's going to be camera, it's going to be Wi-Fi. So we're evaluating that at the moment. And yeah, you're going to be able to go for a drive, pull your data to your device, and evaluate, and that's it. And if you want to push it for evaluation, you can. If you want to just keep it online, then it'll just be online. If you want to keep it on the device, that's it. If you want to push it to the cloud and evaluate it against other people and other people can use it, then you'll have that option as well. And you'll be able to specify at that point.
So we're going to be able to, at some stage, be able to go onto like Google Maps via this site and then go and see what spots around the world somebody's drifted using the product?
If people want to do that, then yeah, you'll be able to. If people want to share their data, then yeah, you should be able to do that.
That'd be so funny. You're sort of just like flicking around the world, just have a little like the little star ping up for with the logo, and just be like, oh, that's a spot that has happened. Let's go and see what they've actually hit. Oh, that's a funny looking track.
Yeah, well, and we've some people have asked us about creating pseudonyms in their names, and can I not use my real name, and can you change my appearance, and can you change details of my profile, so I have like a public one and a not public one, so people
why does Chop asking for so many things?
It's actually when we had the problems with the receivers going through Gambia and we needed to fix it, one of the first comments that anyone made was that it may or may not have been Daniel, but it was, oh no, you got to fix that. I need to use it, somewhere where there's a lot of trees and it's not Gambia.
Yeah, I think he went out and tested that spot the other day, didn't he?
I don't know. You have to ask Tracy about that one. But yeah, so one of the comments was that it's potentially going to be used out in the street. So, which we don't condone, of course.
Well, but it was used on the street down at Gambia. So,
well, yeah,
there's a couple of legal events going on. So that's all.
Yeah, there you go. That's a perfect use case where it's acceptable. So,
just know if there's like a really weird name of somebody who's bought the product, just charge them extra money.
Yeah, well, I think the stance will be that we don't condone it, but like anything, the way you use it's sort of on you. We'll have the disclaimer somewhere, and then that will be that, I guess. It's like a GoPro, right? Like you can go out and buy a GoPro. You could strap, guys strap GoPros to bloody M16s and shot up schools, and GoPro didn't get in trouble.
I think you'll be okay.
I think it'll be okay. It will make. We've actually had this discussion if it made like a current affair that someone strapped one of these devices to a car and went street drifting and they crashed their car, are we at fault and are we liable? But we spoke to some lawyers about it and they said, if you have the right disclaimers and stuff, you'll be protected. But the conversation went down an interesting path where would that be good or bad for the business where we got in the news about people street drifting with our product and would that actually be bad or good for the product? And the general consensus was it'll probably be good. So,
but you're only going to be able to log on and look at data if you're a product owner.
No, I don't think so. I think I want to make it as open as possible where anyone can have a look. And I'm a spectator, I'm a drifting enthusiast, and I want to see how EG drove at Mount Gauby.
I want to see if EG's actually left the pits today.
Yeah, I'm a drifting fan. I'm interested in how these guys are driving, and then I want to compare, Matt Harvey to Adam LZ or Daniel Shoulders to Adam LZ. I'm interested in that analysis. Like, as a drifting fan and a drifting enthusiast, that's something that's interesting to me. I want to know that stuff. So I'm pushing for it to be completely open, that you don't have the option of hiding your data. That's what I think will be ideal. But if we get a lot of pushback from that, then we'll change that. But at this point, I want to make it as open as we can.
And that's fairly easy changes from a software side from you guys anyway.
Yeah. That's I got our lead software guy. That's like a half-hour job for him to do something like that. Yeah.
So, as we keep saying, that the software side of things is the sky is the limit with what you can imagine you want to use the data for and how you want to represent it and do all that sort of stuff. But the data is exactly there to do whatever the fuck you want.
Yeah.
For you guys.
Yeah. As I said before, we're privileged that the hardware is super bloody awesome, and it's the software that was the easy bit to change. Re-engineering the hardware is sort of the most expensive part, whereas doing the software, it's sort of we can do it on the fly, and if we have a crazy idea, we can sort of do it in an afternoon and test it. And yeah, as I said, it's all based on the quality data that we're getting, and from there, the software sort of can drive whatever we want, which is cool. But yeah, so from a data perspective, we had a bit of a crazy idea and we are shopping it around, and it might be something for 2020. We are putting the feelers out for a bit of a crazy idea, but I think it might be something that will be really cool. It's basically a global, I may have mentioned it on last year, I can't remember. But we want to have a global, worldwide, anyone can enter drifting comp. And we want to run it over the course of 2 months, and everyone with a DriftBit can enter. And over the course of 2 months, you drive as much as you can. And we're going to analyze your drift data to some way that we specify, and maybe we'll consult with the community and you guys about how we evaluate. But we want to have...
It has to be on a circuit.
Well, does it? I don't know. But we want to have an open, worldwide, anyone can enter drifting competition that anyone can have a crack at. Do we judge it on consistency or entry speed compared to the next guy, or line versus the next guy? So the big picture plan is that we want to have an online digital battle with anyone that's driving around the world, which I think will be super killer.
Interesting. I don't know how you do that. I could imagine if you have 2 month period, you have like the same set of corners, so like everyone has to go to this track and then do that.
Well, that's one of the things we got to base the evaluation on. That's not on the track, because someone driving in Mount Gambier and then just someone driving in Calder Park, how it'd be virtually impossible to compare them because it's a completely different course. But
peak hour freeway mungie competition, Ned. Fucking Chop comes through with the answers already, so done.
The Arabs would win it, wouldn't they?
Oh yeah, how sick would that be?
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, I like how you're worried about disclaimers, and now you're like, yeah, fucking oath, let's do mungies down the freeway in peak hour.
Well, look, I just I want it to be as cool as possible, and if people are going to use it some way, then whatever. So I'm just reading some of the comments now.
Maybe if you have sections, so like you have like a 2-corner and a 2-corner comp and a 3-corner comp and a freeway manji comp.
Well, one of the things that I was thinking about, which would be a cool way to evaluate, would be, again, remove the track as a variable, and consistency. So, like, let's just say I drive 3 tracks. If I'm throwing consistent lines and consistent angle, that's a good baseline to compare against someone else's consistency. If they're all over the shop and one lap's good, one lap's bad, then you can probably say, well, their consistency is a bit shit and my consistency is a bit better. I would go with a person that's more consistent. And once you have that as a baseline, you can say, well, he's consistently throwing this angle and this speed, and the other person's inconsistently throwing this speed, and that's a good comparison point. So, look, it needs a lot of thought and logic, and we obviously need, a lot of users out there playing with the product, so they have a good baseline, but consistently gay.
So, but I guess,
anyway,
what does the winner get? Like a reach around from you or something, or?
We've actually reached out to a energy drink manufacturer, and there's talk of a pretty massive prize pool. And then from that prize pool,
I'd still rather a reach around from you, but okay. I guess some money's okay too.
I don't think I have a comment for that. Thank you. I don't know, a reach around from one of the founders of the companies. I don't know. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that off camera, but anyway, there's an energy drink manufacturer that we're in talks with. Floated the idea to them, and they're interested, we'll put it that way. So having them on board might open up a lot of doors for this competition and from the product. And I think the way that I pitched it to them was, it's like Mad Mike's, I forgot what he called it.
Drift Shifters.
It'll be Mad Mike's Drift Shifters event, but anyone in the world can enter. And they were like, whoa, that's pretty radical. So that was of interest to them, and we're working together to possibly put a concept together and some prize money and some other stuff. But it's in the works, so it may or may not happen. I don't want to get anyone too excited about that if it's not gonna come true. But that's something that we're
really cool, especially if you get a camera guy. Like the amount of different scenes or like videos that you'd get just coming from that sort of competition would be amazing.
Yeah, like you can compete against some 16-year-old kid in Japan, and he's got a piece of shit car, and you've got a high spec car, and he's taking you to school on this global platform that anyone can drive on. I think that'd be sick.
I feel like I'm not in this competition, so it's okay.
I'm so old. I'm too old.
But I think it'll also
too slow, so.
And I think it'll be pretty cool to establish some sort of ranking system as well, to see where you're positioned in terms of a local and global ranking scenario. So, like, it'll be cool to say, oh yeah, I'm the 400th best driver in the world. That'd be a cool title to have. Or I'm in the top 10 of drivers in the whole world. That'd be cool. Yeah, it's going to be hard again to.
Yeah, Daigo who?
Yeah. Like, imagine winning a competition that was open to everyone in the world. That'd be sick. Like, it's not possible. Like, unless it's like on some sim racing thing, which is, it's sim racing. It's not really racing. But outside of that, where can someone compete against anyone against the world? I think it'd be fucking sick. And
is that going to
have the technology.
Drives?
No. Well, no, of course not.
No, it should definitely exclude front wheel drives because drifting.
Not front wheel drives. Not front wheel drives as a whole, but only Hondas maybe.
Oh, only Hondas? Okay, yeah, that's fair. That makes sense.
Yeah, Hondas. Any VTEC? Anything VTEC? It's a rear-wheel drive VTEC drift cars.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
S2000s.
there's a lot. Yeah.
Okay.
The K series are getting more popular at the moment.
Well, if it's front-driving Honda,
don't
it's
say too loud,
out.
they do get upset.
Yeah, front-wheel
So
driving Honda.
don't say K series motors would be banned because EG might get upset.
Nah, not me.
But
yeah, so that's one of the cool things that the technology will enable us to do. Stuff like out of the box thinking like that, where we could have an online battle, or we could have like a local battle in a country, or we could have something cool like that. So we're hoping this sort of product is one of the things that enables, some really innovative thinking and some innovative applications for it. Nothing like this can exist right now. We actually have discovered that a European competition is running a drift analysis systems for their judging. You might be familiar with. Have any you guys heard about this? That the IDC is running a digital system next year? No?
No, because they haven't done any announcements to announce that they're even running it all next year since the change of hands or the
release.
I don't even think it's been an announcement that it's changed hands properly. Like just that Brian was giving it up and that was it. So
yeah, and he'd been moving. It wasn't his thing, and he just sort of like let it go or something like that.
Yeah. So actually, someone reached out to me and they asked me if we were involved in that project for IDC. We're not, so we'll put that to bed if anyone asks. We're not, but their system is completely different to ours. They're basically running sensors on track to identify proximity where you are for clipping zones and position on track. I'm not sure what type of GPS system they're using. It's not ours, and our GPS, the manufacturer of our system, the chip provider for our system, have said that they're not haven't been in communication with the IDC or the people running the system for IDC. As far as I know, it's a couple of boxes in the car and some proximity sensors on track.
But as a techie, how accurate is that sort of stuff anyway? Like, how often would a car go past one of those sensors and it not pick up, or is it purely that's potentially the sensor box on the side of the track is a GPS unit, and then the GPS unit in the car will just say how close they got to each other or something like that?
If they're using a different system, and just from my experience of using gyroscopes and other similar sensors, they won't be able to measure drift angle that accurately. I could be wrong. I'm not sure if they've innovated in that space, but I was, working in that space for a year and a half, and we could get pretty good, but I don't know if it was good enough for a competition. Yeah. For proximity, if they're using proximity sensors in the track, they could probably get it accurate, but they won't be able to do proximity to each other. So it will just be, from what I was told, it's just for qualifying, and that's it, to evaluate.
Just the clips.
Yeah, so basically how close were you in a pocket of a clip.
But FD did something similar to that where they had, signs that were red, and once they got close enough to the clip that it changed to green. But there was often cases where either there was too much smoke coming off tires and it sort of blocked the signal, the sensor, or just the fact that the car went past it at a rate of speed or at the wrong time during a refreshment of the sensor itself, and it just didn't pick up the.
Yeah, we've actually played around with proximity sensors before, and under the right conditions they work fine, but under wrong conditions they work shit. Like when it's raining and when there's heavy rain and heavy tire smoke, they can get confused. Some of them use infrared, and they can get confused with exhaust heat and tire heat. So for our experience, they're a bit shit. And when they get knocked, they generally don't like it. So depending how they embed them into the track, if they're exposed and they get knocked, then that will wipe them out. And we found that then to be a fucking dog's breakfast. It'd be interesting to see their implementation. And if you look at some cars from IDC last year, you'll see a cluster of antennas and a cluster of boxes within the car. So they have been, from what I know, testing them quite thoroughly last year. And as I said, from my understanding, they're completely different to how our system works. Their antenna array. So for our system to work accurately, we need a minimum distance between our antennas. That's how it. Basically, our system works by drawing a line between the antennas, and we know the direction of the car. So if we have a digital line and a heading, we can work out drift angle from that.
Yeah.
From what I saw, their array of antennas were too close together to do that. So I'm pretty confident that they're using a different system to work out drift angle. If they're using against your sensors and other sensors, probably won't be that good for drift angle. But I think they're more worried about proximity to clipping points. So
yeah. Well, and the reality is, so your product itself, it's safe to say, because I know what your grant numbers were, plus the couple of years prior to that, there's like an absolute shitload of money that's been dumped into this product from you guys. For these guys, potentially haven't been developing for all that long, it's probably a very, very basic system at this stage, using potentially cheap parts because the return on investment just wouldn't be worth it, really.
Yeah. So for us, it was, obviously we don't want to spend all this money and walk away broke. Like, there's no point. Like, if the product's not sustainable, then there's no point in doing it. Like, we're not running a charity, or we're not doing it because we're doing it to have a commercial product in the end. And if it's not viable as a commercial product, then it's not viable. For them to spend a ton of money just for the competition, IDC would have to be paying them a lot, or they'd have to doing it quite lean.
And listening to Brian's stuff about the stuff that was running in Ireland, there's no way they're doing it on a big budget. It's not happening.
So our unit is going to retail for about $850 to $1,000. If we were to put it into a competition like IDC with 60 car field, that's 60 grand of hardware just in the cars, let alone all this stuff on the track. Add another 10, 20K for stuff on the track. And they need staff to sit there and manage it and run the system, and computers to run all that shit. So if the setup was less than 100 grand, just as a hardware implementation for an event, I'd be surprised if it was any cheaper than that. Like, they're doing 100 grand just on hardware. And how many rounds are there a year? Like 10, 6?
Not even, probably 5 or 6. But no announcements yet of how many they're going to run next year. So,
like, just in hardware costs to outlay 100 grand for a six event season. That's a lot of money. Like, I doubt you'd get 100 grand off anyone to run a system for a year for that. So for us, that's just not an economic way of running the project. So we would rather sell 60 units to dudes, and they have fun with it and they get some enjoyment out of it, and it's a cool product. And then we make a bit of profit on that, and we can make the product better and reevaluate it and make it better and continue to grow the brand and the business, and that's how we become economically viable. But yeah, having 100 grand worth of hardware in an event that runs 6 events, for us, the numbers don't stack up.
Well, to me, I look at it and go, if FD haven't done it, and if European Drift Masters aren't doing it, at this stage, it's not cost effective and not worth doing.
Yeah.
Hence why trying to outsource to a third party, hoping that it can be stitched onto the side of a commercial product like yours or whatever.
So, like, speaking to Formula Drift, and to get that project happening, to get a Battleist product in Formula Drift, again, it was economics. It didn't work. They basically made us a tentative offer of getting it in there, but yeah, it would have cost us. We wouldn't have made any money off Formula Drift in terms of supplying hardware and all that sort of jazz. And it would have been a massive R&D endeavor to get the technology up to the specification that they needed it to. It just wasn't economic. So unless these guys have figured out some magic way to do it cheaply and efficiently, and I could be completely wrong, but that 100 grand number I could be way off, but if I had to guess, it'd be about right. But yeah, unless they're doing something significantly different, I don't know how it would work.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know that they're fairly techy over there because they've got the guys who do their are able to make the tracks fairly quickly on a set of Corsa and stuff like that, so that they can have a nice visual representation of their tracks and stuff like that. But that's, again, from a software point of view, that's cheap and easy to get done, because it's just that's a time thing more than anything else. Where just knowing that the amount of shit that you guys have been through in the 3 years, and just the dollars that have been sunk into trying things, and proof of concept is, I guess, for everything for you guys, proof of concept has been the hardest thing.
Yeah, well, every time we go to a track, it costs us about $5,000 running a car and getting there. And if we have to stay over a weekend, and there's generally 2 or 3 guys that go out, and to be fair, the main body of staff that are at Battleist, we haven't drawn a wage for 2 years. We sort of do it as a passion project with the hope that one day that it's this awesome thing and everyone buys one, and it's cool, and we can push it further. If and we're sort of in a fortunate state where we're able to do that. Not a lot of guys in the position where, if this was someone's full-time job, they'd be gone broke definitely before the product would eventuate. But we're in a position where we don't need to draw a wage from the business, which is cool. And that affords us to run super lean and to develop the product without having that stress. So if there was another company doing it, they had to pay 3 or 4 guys a year, 3 or 4, 5 guys a year over the course of a year. That's $500,000 on top of all their other costs. It'd kill you. It just wouldn't be economic. It wouldn't work.
Yeah. So you've got your sort of beta test ones hopefully will be out by Christmas time, and then should that all go well, what's your sort of timeline as a retail product?
So we're talking about, to be fair, the response has been really, really, really good. Mount Gambier was sort of a big awakening for us. We spoke to heaps of guys, and the response was, "Get me one ASAP. I want it ASAP. Like, here's my money. I want it. How much does it cost? Cool, that's reasonable. Send me one as soon as it's ready." And as soon as we made our announcement that we're sort of back in action and the product's alive again, man, my inbox has sort of been firing up. I've been getting emails almost every day about people that want the product, and I speak to randoms. "Oh, hey, you're the DriftBit guy. Yeah, I want one. When can I get one?" So that sort of pushed us to do this pilot program that we weren't going to do, and we were just going to go straight into production around the end of the year or the start of next year. So end of Q3, Q4. End of Q4, start of Q1. But this pilot, all these guys saying, "I want one now. Get me one. I'll be part of it." We sort of think that will be a good opportunity to get a couple of products into some guys' hands, use it as a pilot, and use that as a development cycle to make the final product better. So beta around December, the pilot program around December, and then depending how that goes, January, February, March next year for the commercial release. We've actually only got enough money to produce about 100 to 200 units. So we need to sell them to move on to the next batch. So to be fair, it's looking really promising. We've pretty much sold them. We haven't sold them yet, but we've got enough hands in the air to say that we're pretty comfortable that the batch that we will develop soon will sell, and then from that it will enable us to produce more, pretty much.
Sick.
Yeah, so if that's an indication of the financial state of us, is probably a good indicator. But yeah, we're running super lean, and we're pretty comfortable and confident that these will sell, and then we'll be viable towards the end of next year.
Yeah. And I guess because the new unit, without all the looms and all that sort of crazy stuff, you're going to be able to pick them up and move them. If you're somebody with 2 cars, you're going to be able to grab it from one car and move it into another car.
Yeah, unless there's something super complicated about the install, which we haven't come across yet. Like, we installed in Daniel Shelter's car, and I don't know if you guys saw that thing. That was sort of mix match panels and shit glued everywhere, and that had fucking what's that, expanding foam shit? It had expanding foam everywhere
for rigidity.
Yeah, and like the boot was literally chained down with a chain. And anyway, we installed the unit we installed everything ready to rock and roll in his car in about 5 minutes. The disassembly to remove is quicker because mounting it, you just got to make sure everything's nice. When you take it off, it's quicker. So you could move it from one car to the other in 5 minutes, no problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The install's way cleaner. It's literally 2 antennas. Did I show you the antennas before?
Yeah.
It's just they're magnetic. You simply just drop it on your roof. We're hoping that most people still have metal roofs.
Can you do it from the inside, or does it have to be on the outside?
It has to be on the outside. They're sorry, I'm just opening something.
No, I know my race pack one I could just put on the inside of the roof and it still did speed and stuff okay, but I'm not sure how accurate it was from
the manufacturer of these antennas and these chipsets say that we're going to get the best possibility for good data on the outside, so that's where they stay. With any sort of interference with the antennas, a possible way that the data is going to get corrupted or made a little bit shit. So on the outside they go. And
so you're saying,
as I said,
so if you're saying metal roofs to somebody like Adam LZ with a carbon fiber roof on the 15, would he have to mount it to, say, one of the pillars that are still metal, or would he get away with putting it on that?
I'm not sure if I've got one. So we have these little, what we call a base plate, and then you can, so this is a little base plate. You can pop, it's malleable, so you can shape it to any shape you want. You can paint them, you can do whatever, and then the antenna would sit on the middle of that. So that's as much metal as you need. And we've actually played around with the types of metal. We've played around with aluminium and stuff. So you could put a little square of aluminium and paint it, and that would be sufficient for it to work.
Fair enough.
We had them on Matt Harvey's carbon bonnet. We did a couple of runs without the base plate. It was okay. But then we put the base plate on, it was better. So there's going to be some recommendations on the install that will specify when they go on. You know, if it's carbon panel, then we use a base plate. This base plate is sort of a general purpose base plate, but we played around with, as I said, malleable aluminium with a sticky back on it, so you can just peel off the back, stick it on, and it'll be ready to rock and roll. So, and as mentioned before, this is like high quality professional GPS stuff. Like as I said, no one's using anything this good, and we're sort of the first to break the ground on getting them into motorsport. So it's sort of this sort of high-end equipment sort of demands for it to work in pretty specified environments to get the most out of it. I'm pretty sure they'll work fine in a car, but like inside the cabin. But if we have a uniform set of requirements to say it goes in the outside, you got to put it on metal, that's the only way, then there's no way it can really be mucked with. And if anyone's saying that they get shit data out of it, it's probably due to a bad install. Yeah. So it's
replacement parts. Like say you smash your car hard enough in the wall, it kind of rolls over.
Yeah.
And you break an antenna. Is it easy to replace, or is it all?
No. So they use a standard connector. We don't manufacture the antennas and the looms that they use. That they're manufactured by a third party. So we will actually get them cheaper than you can buy from them directly from, as they're about $80 from retail, but because we buy them in bulk, we get them significantly cheaper from that. So they'll be cheaper from us than you can buy from the actual manufacturer. But they're open. It's like a open plug, and they'll just work. The batteries are user replaceable. It's just like a standard LiPo battery with a 2-pin connector. So if for some reason you kill your battery in your unit, you'll be able to replace them. Then they're the only connectors. We'll probably, for the camera, if we use it, they'll be standardized. So we're thinking that the camera is going to be an add-on. It's not going to be, it will ship without it, and if you want it as a add-on, you can get it. Right now the units use an SD card. It's just a standard SD card. We were thinking about putting some flash memory, integrating some flash memory into the actual board themselves, so it's not user removable. But if we put a video camera on it, we think we'll put removable stuff. That's why I'm asking the question, because these, in terms of development, they'll have different routes in which way the final piece of the hardware gets developed. So Yeah, apart from that, no, everything will be replaceable. For instance, Daniel Shoulders, when he put his bum into the wall at Gambia, he severed a loom. We were able to fix it on the track. It was just a twist and tape fix, and it worked fine. But yeah, we appreciate that these vehicles do get hit, and we're not going to make. As I mentioned a year ago, we don't want to make the ecosystem of the product be like an Apple ecosystem where it's all proprietary and hard to get access to bits and pieces. Like, I feel like that's a bit of a takeaway from the product making it worse. We don't want users to have that experience. We want to have a positive experience. You smash your drift car into a wall and you want to replace an antenna. Go to Battleist.com and get a new antenna.
And if you're a Russian running it in a car in Russia, the last thing you want to do is have to wait for an Aussie company to send a new GPS antenna. You might be willing to pay the extra money to get a,
Yeah. Well, we've been fortunate enough. We've got a supplier in Europe that wants to carry the product, and we've got a supplier in Japan, and we've got a supplier in America. So we should have a lot of the bases covered in terms of accessibility to the kits and the add-ons and third-party stuff. So we should cover a lot of that space. So it shouldn't be too difficult to break something and get back going relatively easy and quickly.
I've seen that Link ECU started doing like mounting plates for their ECUs. That's something you could potentially look at in the future once you've nailed down your final.
Yeah, so we've actually played around. We actually played around. I can't see one on my desk, so I apologize for that. But it's basically a GoPro cage clamp mount. It's sort of two semicircles with a pivot on both and a threaded rod that can join them. So you can essentially just tether it to your roll cage and off you go. It's all sweet. And the assumption was that every drift car would have a roll cage, right? Yeah.
Have you seen some of Daniel's cars?
Yeah. So anyway, that was our
in Victoria. In Victoria, it's every drift car, but yeah, not so much around here.
Yeah. So that was our assumption so we were going to implement that it came in the kit. It came with a roll cage mounts. We'd spoken to a supplier that we got a really good deal on, and if we bought them in bulk, we could get a good price, and it wouldn't add too much to the cost for us. So that was something that we're just going to add. Cool, guys, that's clip onto your roll cage, done, easy. And then we went to Gambia, and the lead star of the event didn't have a roll cage in his car, so that sort of blew that out of the water. So we had to reevaluate how we're mounting those. We got around it. Right now the system, the units have little, I don't know if you can see, little holes.
Yeah.
And they're thick enough that you can run a 7mm, so quite a thick cable tie around them, and that's the mount. It's a bit dodgy, but right now that's sort of what we're working with. But mounts have come into an interesting space where we thought we had a locked and loaded. We got these mounts, and I tested them, and it was in a car that was in an accident, and that was sweet. And the unit didn't move anywhere, and all good. And then they rock up to fucking Gambia, and Adam LZ's car doesn't have a roll cage in it. So
his roll cage is out of the car.
But yeah,
really, it was chilling in the grass.
Yeah,
chilling in the grass. Yeah.
But really, you only need two styles. You need one that's like a flat base plate that can be permanently mounted to a car that the unit can be pulled in and out of, and then a permanent roll cage style one that can be mounted to the cage, and then the unit pulled on and off that. I think that's your only two options that you really need, and you can either add it as I would probably do it as an add-on, because people are going to want to get creative with mounting their own shit anyway, and charge $50 on top and take your wife out for a nice dinner or something.
Yeah, well, we actually, one of our plates on the front of the unit, I don't know if you can see, had a little lip on it, like a 9. It had 2 holes in that, and we're going to use that as a way to mount the units to be tested. But I think that in conjunction with the roll cage mount, we should probably cover all our bases. And then again, one of the things to trial, for the first, for this first batch of pilot customers, we'll send them out with a roll cage mount, and we'll send them out possibly with some holes in the side and see what works. And go to the drawing board if it doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah, I'm sure people are going to come up with some creative shit anyway. Get them sitting somewhere nice, or put them somewhere that they can actually show them off rather than mounting them in the back of the car where they're not hidden. Some people might want them up in their dash.
They do fit perfectly in the center console of a S13 dash. So that's one spot. But yeah, I liked it in the roll cage. It was sort of central to the car. You could see it. And as I said, at that point, we had a little SD card and we wanted to access that to pull the SD card in and out. So on the roll cage is like ideal. We ended up strapping one to Adam LZ's. It was like the rear strut tower where the seats latch onto the rear strut tower. There's like two little tabs which had two little holes in it, and we just cable tied to that, and that was fine. But yeah, we'll happily release, 3D printable little tabs if people want a 3D print or whatever. Like I sort of have the philosophy to make it easy and as simple as possible, and not to jam people up for making it hard to mount. You got to pay $20 for a mount. Like no one wants to do that. So we understand that we want to remove all the friction points for drifters to get to the product and to use the product. So if there's anything shit about it, like, oh, you got to buy a special cable to make it work, or the antennas you can't get, I feel like that's going to be a big friction point for people to buy the product. And I feel the success for this product we have to remove all those friction points or no one will adopt it. So we've got to make the UI good, and we've got to make it easy to work with, and we've got to make the product cool looking, and I think we've got to tick off a lot of boxes before people adopt it. And I think adding stuff like just making it difficult to mount would be something that might stop 20 people buying it. If 20 people don't buy it, then that will probably be really shit for us. So we want to remove all that shit, make it easy to work with, and all that sort of shit. Maybe we'll start doing the annoying stuff once we become the size of Apple.
I liked the original Battleist where it was mounted on the dash. So when you walk past the car, you can actually see that it has that unit in it, and you could you think, oh, maybe I can look this guy up, kind of thing.
Yeah, that was cool. We did find it was a tricky environment for the units to live. They copped a lot of heat sitting on the dash, and we're using this new double-sided polymer. It was kind of like strong double-sided tape, but it was a little bit. It wasn't as rigid, but it was stickier than double-sided tape. But the sun on a dash would kill this sticky stuff, and the units are actually moving, and we actually lost we lost one by flying out of the car. So if they're away from that environment, they sort of tend to be a little bit more reliable. And yeah, the heat. We had one, Stewie Bryant's. Yeah, Stewie Bryant's one copped a lot of heat, and it malfunctioned and died. So keeping them away from that environment is sort of good for the longevity of the product. But they were in a 3D printed plastic case, and now they're in an extruded aluminium case. So they're a lot more robust. But actually, the data that we got from Justin Gruner's car, the unit was actually flopping around in the back, and it wasn't rigid mounted. And we jammed it between the seat and the tunnel, and it looked really sturdy there. This was before we come up with the way to mount them. And we jammed it in, and we're like, cool, that's not going to move anywhere, off you go. And probably like his second lap, it came free, and it was flopping around the back, and it didn't break. So the units themselves are a lot more rigid and robust than they were before.
Where's manufacturing being done? Is that being done local, or is that being done in?
Yeah, so we got the privilege of working with a small electronics company in Victoria, and then they've got their own pick and place machine. If anyone doesn't know what a pick and place machine is, it's like a bunch of little robotic arms, and it basically picks up components for a circuit board and then places on the circuit board. And after that, the circuit board travels down an oven and gets all the components get baked on, and it's the cleanest and most efficient way of producing circuit boards. There's not a lot in Australia. It's all sort of gone offshore, but we've partnered up with these guys, and they've actually produced these ones, and they come up really good. So we'll probably do the small batch here, but when we start scaling up, or when we hopefully start scaling up, just economies of scale are going to force us to go offshore. But right now they're going to be 100% solely manufactured in Australia.
Oh, perfect. My first run will be a good one, and then everybody else can get the shit ones.
Yeah, we're actually we're doing some interesting stuff for the circuit boards that you'll have to wait and see. But we'll just say that we're putting an Easter egg on the circuit boards. Not that we're
as long as it's not a Black Arts Factory style Easter egg, then.
What's a Black Arts style Easter egg?
Haven't you seen what he puts on every single thing that he welds?
Ah, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Wasn't Adam LZ's
Yeah, he had one on his dump or something.
On his exhaust? That was a signature Black Arts.
Yeah.
Appendage.
Yeah. He seems to do them pretty accurately, so I'm just not sure what they're based around.
Yeah, metal appendages, which is
no, I know, but I just mean like he's able to replicate the same one over and over again. So I'm just questioning,
based on some sort of template, you reckon?
Yeah, so I would just wonder where his templating, the template's coming from.
I haven't seen one in the flesh, but were they small or were they big or?
Yeah,
maybe we'll ask Lucy.
Yeah, weren't all that girthy from what I saw in different people's vlogs and stuff. So.
Yeah. There may be. I guess we'll have to wait and see what the Easter eggs look like.
What the Easter egg is.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anything else, EG? Oh no, he's claiming he mixes them up. Must be ones he sees in the nightclub bathrooms or something.
Yeah, maybe at the Mount Gambier Hotel.
Oh Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't think I've got that much more. I don't know if there's any questions online.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of people watch. I can guarantee a whole bunch of people are going to follow this up with watching this probably not live and then wanting to ask a shitload of questions when they should have just stuck with it and asked questions.
Yeah. Well, look, if I'm happy to answer any questions post clutch kick. You can go to our website and drop your an email to sign up to our mailing list, and the first bunch of pilot units will be offered there first. And from what I can tell, as I said, they're mostly accounted, or not mostly accounted for. So there'll be opportunity to grab one there if you drop your name on the email. So if you are interested, do that sooner than later. But we've deliberately been quite quiet until we're quite happy that the product was where we wanted it to be from a technology point and from an output sort of point. So we've deliberately kept a little bit of a quiet profile for maybe 6 to 8 months. But now that we're happy with it, we're sort of full steam ahead. So we're going to be more active on social media, and we're going to be more active at tracks, and we're going to be more active sort of everywhere. So lots of news and info and updates are going to be coming out from us in the near future.
Connor's asked I think it's a business style question. He's asked, how does his pay per Facebook groups work? Mainly the Ebisu Drift Cars group. I've never heard of anything like that for Facebook groups before. So I think being able to pay for sponsorship in those groups or something.
Is he asking as in, do we pay people for likes, or will he pay people for likes?
I think you get paid, there's paid sponsorship groups.
So
to actually maintain the group, maybe. I don't know.
Well, Connor, I'm not too sure what you mean, but we don't really participate. We're trying to have a really lean marketing strategy where we'd rather pipe the money into making the product better than to try and get likes and stuff. That might be counterproductive, but our focus is on making. We think if we make the product as best it can possibly be, and it's awesome and it has all the cool stuff that everyone wants, it will hopefully sell itself. So that's sort of our focus more than getting internet points.
Oh, he's saying how do you get income off them? You get paid for some of them. Oh, I don't know if he means sharing people's.
So the plan is,
if you have enough of a following in a group, then businesses will come and approach you and say, "Hey, advertise my shit because your group is relevant, and then we'll give you as administrators X amount of money or merchandise." Because I think there's a few groups out there like that.
Well, yeah.
Facebook.
So we're not really.
I don't know. It's weird. Like then I don't know how much of that scam style shit too, because Danielle and I's like skating fan page that we haven't touched since we stopped skating gets messages almost every day asking if we'd happily do paid advertising for like $100 a week or some shit, and we just ignore them because we're no idea what the fuck any of that means.
No, you get paid as a page administrator.
That's what I'm saying. They want to pay us to advertise their shit on our page, but we're like, this shit hasn't been active in years, and we have like 1,000 people. We don't care.
Yeah, so we get hit up all the time for guys saying, "Oh, hey, I've got a big following. Can I get one of your products and I'll post about it? Blah 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 blah." And our response is generally the same, where we're like, "Cool, buy a unit, and when we'll give you a unique code, and if you sell 2 or 3 using your special code, we'll refund you 100% of the cost." And we get 0 people saying that they will do that. So everyone sort of wants something. Well, not everyone. A few guys sort of want something for free, and that not really to make their mouths work and them walk the walk, I guess you could say. So there's a lot of just guys speaking hot air about that sort of shit. So so we sort of ignore it. As I said, our focus is we'll do a little bit of social media when we feel like it's relevant to our story and relevant to the development of the product, and keep perspective customers informed about what's going on, stuff like this. But outside of that, our focus is on refining the product and making it better. And yeah, as I said, with the objective of hopefully it's so awesome that everyone wants it and it will sell itself.
And with an owner as good looking as you, mate, everybody's going to want one.
I hope so. I hope that's not the driving factor on our sales. Otherwise, I'm in the wrong business. But I'm hoping the product speaks for itself. And yeah, to be fair, I'm more excited about V2 than I was V1, just because it's so much better. And I touched on this before that it was a bit of a kick in the balls that the Kickstarter didn't get off the ground, but I think it was meant to be, and I think it was there was something overlooking us that said no, that first Kickstarter was meant to fall over, because we have a better product now and it's cooler and it's more effective, and it would have been shit to get the money for that product and develop it to a point that it was ready to sell, and this new tech came along and we would have been committed to that old style, and we would have just been trying to polish a turd. But now there is no turd. The turd is gone. Like it's a thing and it's awesome. So I'm super excited what we can bring, and the feedback's been super awesome. Like I had guys that I never even met message me after Gambler, and they're like, "Hey, I was walking past Adam's car when you're showing him the demo, and I was super impressed. When can I get one? I want one now." Like that sort of feedback really gets the blood flowing. Like that's sort of special to us, and hearing that makes us do a little bit more extra nights and make it a little bit better, and feedback like that to the other guys of the team that are struggling like everyone else it gets us going, and we're super pumped to get it out.
Cool.
Lots of nods, lots of head nods.
No, it's good. It's good. I think it looks like it has a lot of room for extra add-ons, because I think with the mention of being able to get throttle and brake inputs, I think you'll be able to adapt it to other forms of motorsport, like hill climbs even, and you can, like the way you're saying that you can break up the drift runs like over Mount Gambier. I think you can make sectors out of it as well, so you can actually time it, get accelerator, brake inputs, and then like just how accurate it looks. Like the GPS is drawing the line on the map. It looks like you'll be able to take this product and then like expand it to everything else. Because I think a lot of people they do they'll do drifting as like their main one, but then they'll have a go at other things like a hill climb or Motorcana or just circuit days, just to have fun, something different, and then they can take it there, and they can, if they really want to, they can compare against their mates and stuff. So
and as I said, it's the GPS technology that we've got in this unit, it's shits on anything out there, and it's sort of half the cost. So just from a pure location logging perspective, I think it might be attractive to other forms of motorsport, just for that factor, let alone all the other cool stuff we can do.
Yeah, and I think it's just a matter of getting it in people's hands and then going from there, really, because I think people very quickly, once it's in people's hands, are going to want to be able to have their ECU hooked up to it properly and get overlays of, their sensors within their car on it very quickly. But the reality is, for that to happen quickly, you got to buy the unit, have a whole bunch of people buy the unit, and then go, we've supported you, give us this shit.
Yeah,
it's not really gonna. Sure. It's not really gonna happen the other way around, because there's just not the scope for you guys to keep dropping more and more into it without proof of concept. And if people keep saying that they want it, but they're not, not supporting it with their pocket, then that's not proof that they actually want those extra features. So
yeah. So what I think is going to happen, and it's sort of similar to when WiseFab and those sort of products came out, where people thought it was, they got a modified. Everyone was running stock knuckles and slightly modified steering when that sort of era of drifting came about, where it felt like it was an unfair advantage to use these sort of products in your setup. And he's using WiseFab, he's a bit of a cheater, or he's using WiseFab, that's what a dog, or. But people bought those products and they were winning competitions. It was an advantage. I kind of feel like this is going to be that sort of evolution of the sport where, we saw with me comparing against Justin Brunner's run. Like, just by going through that run, I learned a lot just from analyzing it. And the next time I go and attack that course, I'm going to be better for it. Like, me having the product in my car versus someone that doesn't have the product in the car, I feel like I'm going to have an unfair advantage, and having an unfair advantage like that in motorsport's a really big deal. Like, guys chase 10 tenths in grip, and they get 10 tenths like that by analysing the data and doing a little bit better when they go back out. Me having this knowledge now about Winton when I go out, like, if that's something that gets me not on the podium to the podium, I think that's super cool. And if the word gets out that I've got this product in my car and I'm a podium driver now, and a lot of it was because I learned from, my runs and comparing my data versus Justin, and now I'm just as good a driver as Justin. I hope that would be cool. But like, if this is a product that gets me onto the podium, I feel like everyone's going to be like, well, everyone's going to wise up and get on the data train, and everyone's going to wise up and get on the, hopefully get on the DriftBit train and use this data to perform better. So I think the uptake is going to be quite interesting, where people are going to probably see it as, well, not as a gimmick or anything, but it's, because it's going to be new, the uptake's not going to be like, amazing. But once people start jarring that, person X has got that unit in his car and he's got a bit of an advantage because he's learned how to tackle the course a bit better, then I think that's when the WiseFab thing is going to happen, where everyone, it's a standard thing in a car. You buy a WiseFab you lock kit, you buy a G-force transmission, you put a 2J and you get a Winter's quick change, and that's a drift car setup. And I feel and I hope that, add one more thing to the list is you have a DriftBit unit in your car, and that's the complete package where it's mechanically sweet and you have the ability to identify what you're doing right and wrong on the track, and that gives you an advantage. And not having one on your car, not having that data and not having that knowledge on how to, perform a little bit better is going to be a disadvantage for the guys who aren't using it. So I'm hoping one day that's sort of the standard equipment on drift cars, into the future.
And then people getting the first round of products, that's you're buying those products, right? You're not basically renting them out or borrowing them.
At this stage, we're most likely going to be selling them. It's just not shipping them out and getting them back and shipping them to other people is probably not going to be economical for us. And as I said, you're going to be part of this elite group getting it early, and you're going to be part of the group that has this, advantage early on. And I'm hoping that the guys that have these units in their cars, start, driving a little bit better, and the word gets out that these guys are driving better, and that because they're driving better, it's because of this product, and having that advantage on their side was a thing that started this catalyst for other people to buy the product and to learn about, analyzing data and to do cool things. So, analyzing drift data, it's never been done before. There's no product out there that you can do it. Like us going through that run, that Justin Gruner run, it's analyzing that. It's never been done. We half made history tonight where, more than 3 people have watched it. It just, every other motorsport discipline in the world has some form of telemetry analysis where they're using it for some sort of performance enhancing. But for drifting, it's left in the Stone Age. It doesn't exist. There is some forms of analytical telemetry for drifting, but not angle and speed and whatnot. So it's now available. Drifting has finally caught up to every other motorsport discipline where they've had these tools for tens of years, and now it's fucking finally happened for drifting. It's finally here. So that's sort of the big picture stuff where that was sort of the picture from the start to get this tech into people's hands where it is a performance enhancing tool. Other motorsports have had it. Like we found stuff from Formula One from '85 where they've had telemetry. That's 30 years. F1 have had, grip racing has had telemetry analysis for 30 years. And drifting, it's finally catching up. Well, drifting's only been around for 10, 15 years, but
we have more than that now, but
yeah, well, maybe more. But we've been left in the Stone Age. It's sort of you drive by the seat of your pants, and hopefully your spotter sort of caught what was going out on track, and that's it. Like there's nothing until now. So we're hoping that the same performance enhancing that you get from that the other motorsport disciplines have enjoyed for 30 years, that we're now bringing it to drifting.
Yeah, well, we can only hope that there's a decent uptake, and then those of us who decide to uptake can hope that more people jump on board so that you guys can give us more and more cool shit via the product. So
yeah, thanks. So I think I've got to be quite selective in the guys that, look, if there is an influx of people that want to get their hands on a unit, I'll try and be selective and pick the dudes that are going to be drive well from the data, and hopefully they can get on the podiums and do some cool stuff.
I think at first it's not even just that. It's just guys who are actually going to be out there driving so that there's data coming onto the servers. People can see it. It's visual, all that sort of stuff. And people are like, oh, shit, there's a whole bunch of people doing this. And then the next wave of people will hopefully be your guys who really, really need the data to get themselves pushing forward. I would say that's probably going to be your best 2 waves. Is sort of your middle to high guys who are able to take it and use it to better themselves, but then give yourselves like a large data pool that starts to show up online, and then all of a sudden all these other people are like, oh shit, like look how much this stuff's changed, and look at all this cool info out there. Now I can go out and start trying to drive and work my way up to that data that's already online. So
well, look, if it's the really people, then you would advertise the product a bit more.
Oh, for sure.
So if it gets in the hands of them and they go, yeah, this guy, like, it doesn't have to be a competitor, but like ideally it's a competitor or someone that significantly makes an impact an event or a drifting, then they'll say, I want that because that guy's got it and he's gotten better again. Yeah, well, not to keep going on the fucking chop Daniel Shoulders fucking story, but a perfect example would be that, at Gambia, he has a suspicion that he was slow off the line. He's like, I feel like the car's not gripping up, and I feel like I'm slow off the line. And entering turn 1 he was at a disadvantage because he wasn't as quick as LZ or Harvey or anyone else that was out there. Recorded the data from his car, and we had a look at it after the fact. And yeah, it turns out he was slow off the line. And he's like, now that I can categorically prove that, I can do something about it. It's not just an assumption that I'm making. I'm gonna do something and try and get my car to be a little bit quicker off the line. And I think he lowered the tire pressures, he swapped tires, and I think he even ran them backwards. So he tried all these things to try and get his car quicker. And after he did it, data came out, and I'm like, yeah, dude, your fire's like, yeah, I feel it. Like I feel like I'm entering turn 1 quicker. So, having that data there was like
a big thing for him to evaluate how his car was performing and tweak it, and then go out there and attack the course better. So, if anything doesn't ring the story of why data is good for the sport, then that's it. Like, he had an assumption, he wasn't sure. We validated his assumption, tuned his car, he went out and he was better. Like, if that's not worth $800 and you can use it every time you get on track, then I don't know what is. Like, dude, spend $800 on lock kits and whatnot, but you can
a little bit more than that on the lock kit, but
yeah, but like, if you can get that extra bit of performance out of your driving or out of your car, then and it's $800 and you can use it every time you go on the track.
Let's be real. At World Time Attack, there was 32 cars or however many cars there were that were probably spending $800 in
a lap. Battle.
Probably a battle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if these dudes are spending $800 for a couple of laps, like that last 10% of performance is like vital for them to be successful or not. And if they're spending $800 for a lap, like a little piece of knowledge, like, hey, you're slow off the line, we need to tune the car, or we need to do something to fix that. Fuck, if that's not worth $800, then I don't know what to do. Like, I couldn't provide these guys with anything else that would benefit them more than that piece of knowledge, and that piece of knowledge that they can take with to the next event or to the next session or whatever. So if that's not worth $800, then I don't know what is. Like, I guess I'll quit. Like, I'll give up.
Yeah.
You just gotta look at the long. Like, people have to look at the long term. Like, it's not just a once-off 800. It's every time you go drift, that cost is covered. So if you do 20 events a year, then it's only what's that? I don't know the maths.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so,
it reduces it a lot. So.
Yeah, and drifting when you're out on track, like, how many laps do you get? How expensive is it? So if I can figure my shit out earlier on in the day and have a good day for the rest of the day, I'll probably save money. I'll save money on practice laps, and the performance from that point forwards for the rest of the day is improved. Like, identifying what's going on early in the piece instead of getting all day, which is what drifters do now. They have assumptions about how they're performing. If you can identify this sort of stuff early on in the piece, early in the day, it's better for the guys participating, right?
Yeah, and I think even moving forward as your product, your interface becomes more refined. I think even being able to go in myself and be able to say, go back to one of the runs that I've done, and on your interface be able to be like, what tire brand I was running, what width I was running, or if I want to go that detailed, and that's just you guys giving us open fields to put cliff notes next to our
So I want to do
stuff.
that. I want to compare my pressures. So I want to be able to compare my run to someone with a similar setup, like the same tire and the same pressure, and see how they went and see how I went, and remove some of the variables in setup, and then just focus on what the cars are doing.
But again, super basic software shit that would probably take your guys. It'll take you more time to come up with what fields you want than it would take them to implement them into the system. Yeah,
and as I said, we're sort of in that cool state where we can, if someone comes up with an idea like that, like that's a cool idea, we could, that's an easy thing for us to do. There's no problem doing that. So, I think that the product is, people have been quietly wanting this product but haven't realized it yet. Like me, I'm in a sort of a privileged situation where I can go drifting, and it's funny enough that the Australian government, you guys, and every taxpayer out there sort of helped me along to go drifting, which is sort of funny and ironic because we got that grant. But I love drifting. I like going drifting, and having a tool that can make me go better every time I'm out there. That's, I don't know how many times I need to say it, but I think it's so good. And and
so do you think the product's good?
It's getting there, yeah. But I've been prior to having the product, I thought I was doing pretty good, but after seeing how I'm driving with the product. It's personally my driver development's been way better. So yeah.
You're just reading a comment?
Yeah, Jake's asking if there's a way to have, in the future, if there's a, as a car goes past you, that you're going to be able to watch their data live and, have it into sim hardware and stuff. But again, I think as we've spoken about over and over again, the sky is the limit. And
yeah, so for us, as I mentioned before, we had a 3G, 4G SIM card antenna built into the unit, and it was pinging data out live. We've dropped that for now, maybe in the future. And it was doing stuff live, and it was cool. But I think the only people that were watching the data live are like pit crew and competition. So I don't think it's too valuable for the average drifter that goes out and drifts and comes back into the pit. They're sort of want to go out drifting review, just like every other telemetry system in the world.
Yeah. Just the work to get it in place for the number of eyes that'll be on it is,
Yeah. So that's the focus. We've got to find that perfect balance between working on stuff that's going to have an impact versus not wasting money and time on shit that's not.
I think it'd be cool to see as a spectator, say like you're in the crowd of FD and then you see one run, and then you go, oh, I wonder how it looked like against the other guy, and then you sort of bring the two together. Over as they're driving through kind of thing.
But again, until you've got a bunch of units in cars, it's really not.
Yeah, I know. But
yeah,
it's just it could
add a lot to a live environment or a spectating environment where you can see cars go past, and one of the discussions I've had with someone else saying it wouldn't be cool to digitally battle someone's real run in a sim environment. Like we captured the run from a Ryan Turek run, and you could drive it in a racing sim and compete against a real car in real life. Like that would be pretty cool. So again, the sky's the limit.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm reading the comments as well. For a spotter live, what you drive will be awesome.
But again, like just so much work and trying to implement that tech for such a small part of the market to start with is just
Maybe that's something further down, like version 3 or something.
Yeah, or we can maybe take the camera and it's a little add-on. You plug it on and it does it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Logan,
with having the CAN system in there anyway, you can basically daisy chain that sort of system, right, to do as much stuff as you want along that system, right? So it's almost endlessly expandable depending on what sort of other units you want to attach along that CAN system, right?
Yeah, so we half started developing a 3G, 4G CAN output service.
Yeah.
So you could plug it in any CAN device and get wireless data out of it. The brakes are put on that when we ran out of cash. But Logan's comment is pretty cool. How you going, Logan? He was saying it would be cool for a spotter, but you almost don't even need a spotter anymore. So you can sort of see what. Yeah. So if someone asks me what it does, it's it records, but it's virtually replacing your spotter now. Like spotters are good and everything, and they have a good evaluation. But having the data there and you can review it and rewatch it and review it and rewatch it and analyze it, tell me that's not better than a spotter that watched you for 30 seconds and they try to remember what happened in a 10 lap cluster.
Yeah, definitely better because Danielle was way too rude to me. Like at least the digital format told me I wouldn't cry at the end of the speech.
Yeah. The data doesn't lie. If you were shit, you were shit, and there's no sugarcoating that. If you're good, you're good. I'm sure most of the spotters would show some sort of bias in their evaluation. Even I've been caught of this, but by oh yeah, you're good, but some rooms for improvement. But I should have said, no, dude, you fucked this up, you fucked that up. But I don't know, human nature is just to be nice, I guess.
Yeah, it's good for people with no friends.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, let's start wrapping this one up because I'm ready for fucking bed.
Sure. Do they generally, your shows almost go for 4 hours each event, or do I just jabber on a lot?
That's just 3 hours.
Oh yeah, is that normal?
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
Or we go off air and then we keep talking shit anyway. So
yeah, until I don't know, late.
The clutch kick on the back channel.
What's it
called? Yeah, pretty much.
Late or
Yeah.
like yeah.
That's probably where all the up late. That's probably all the juicy stuff and
it is, and I think there'd be so many butthurt people if they're able to hear that shit. So like that's the genuine shit talk part. So.
Yeah, you're probably talking about people's appendages and whatnot.
Definitely.
Anyway, let's not get into that because we're all getting tired.
But yeah, so I posted a link in the comments because people were asking for it. But jump on the Battleist website. That's where you can join the subscription.
Yeah, thank you.
And if anyone emails,
all the data from most of our collection is live, and if anyone wants to have a play with that, I'm happy to share it. And like I'm trying to be transparent, and if anyone has a look and has an opinion on how to make it better or whatnot, I'm happy to flip that across. All you need to do is ask, and I'm happy to share it. No problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's wrap it up there. Thanks, Michael, for coming on again. I know you've had a crazy couple of years with the amount of shit that's gone on, and yeah, let's be real. The snippet of the story that you got today is just a very small snippet of Michael's last couple of years. So the fact that he's bothered to keep doing what he's been doing is a testament to. I don't even think it's just a testament to him, but his wife and the guys he has around him, letting him do what he's been doing. So
yeah, no, that's very true. And I'm going to be a dad in 4 months. So that's
nice.
So it needs to get this shit out as soon as possible.
Yeah, didn't I tell you age? That's Anyway, no. Yeah. So that's sort of a motivator to get stuff done. So that's we've sort of worked back from that timeline. So, but yeah, going to be a dad, which is super exciting, and reality bites hard when that shit sort of happens. So. Yeah, good motivator to make shit happen sooner than later, and yeah. But thank you for those kind words. It's obviously a pleasure hanging out with you guys, and through the show I've met a lot of cool dudes, and a lot of those guys I consider friends, and like you guys, I consider you guys friends, and somewhat consultants, and I kind of feel like everyone's been a part of this journey from the start. So. I guess that's sort of a testament to you guys and the community around everyone. It's sort of, everyone's sort of happy to help everyone out, which is super awesome. So, thank you to you guys and to the guys that watching and silly people writing comments. And it's all, in the end, it's all sort of fun, and we're doing it because we're passionate about it. So if it wasn't a good support and, a bit of fun around it, no one would be doing any of this shit. So at least we got something to fill our time with and not be boring dudes, I guess. But yeah, so thank you for this. Thanks for having me on again, and thanks for being part of it. And I'm forever grateful.
Yeah, and seriously, guys, if you want this sort of thing to succeed, like support it with your pocket. That's pretty much all that can be asked. Don't ask for free shit, whatever. Just pay for it to get it off the ground. At this stage, there's not money there sitting to hand out 600 free ones to get it off the ground. It's the community is going to be the reason this thing succeeds or dies. So yeah, support with your pocket, and that's all that can really be done, and we go from there.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. That's main thing.
Yeah.
Cool guys.
Okay.
All right.
Well,
shut it down,
coming
on.
Yep, I'll just shut down. I don't think we have plans for next week, so I'll just play it by ear.
I'll come back. I'll come back next week. No worries.
And continue on. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Good night, people.
Thank you. Bye.